5. Go. Now is it working? Please work. Oh my god. It's all fucking... I hate this thing. I hate the YouTube system. We're suddenly reminded why I left. Okay. And then... and then go down here. YouTube Bort, here's the stream. And then I need to go... chat, can y'all see me? And then the community tab is all fucked up. Did my community tab even work? And I saw somebody super chatted before this crashed and burned. Community. Okay, I'll just delete this. That's fine. Okay. Okay, people should be able to find their way here. There was a drifter passing through that little valley. All souls go when they die. Listen real close, you can hear them like a ghost, and you're never gonna make... Okay, then we can delete that one. And then I can delve into supers and see... how do I see? Are these from today? No, this one's from today. It just said, how's it going from Conrad? Well, thank you, Conrad. Hopefully you're here. Okay. We're all set. Cool. Hello. Yes. How is everyone? Let me put my headphones on. How are we all? Hi. Why is there no sound? Because my headphones were turned off. Aha! Another mystery solved. I am incompetent at my job. Hello! Lots of exciting, cool things to chat about today. Different lighting? No. No, lighting's the same. Oh, wait, no. I see. Actually, the lighting is different because one of my lamps is not turned on. Though, I think I actually kind of prefer it. Game sound is too loud? Okay. There we go. I'll turn that down. Let me know if that's better. Hello! Is Texas still boiling? Yes, and today is particularly hot. Ow, fuck. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that light on. I'm gonna leave that light off because the lighting looks like it's fine. And, it makes it less hot. Hello, yes. Hopefully you all had time to check out the newest video. So, all right, now here's the real question, is how can we figure out how to do things? Hey, Hawk, I don't suppose you know how to do anything on here, do you? Hey, Professor Pone. Professor Pone, I think I'm going to do a Dragonborn Paladin. I'm hoping it's Igrim and the Changeling as legendary hero. I really doubt it. I really, really, really doubt it. To me, it seems very much that I feel like 99% certain the Changeling is the Legendary Lord. I think he was playing way too big of a role in that story. What do I need you to find out? Like, how to run, like, polls and stuff. I do not think Ikram von Horseman is going to be in this DLC. When will the trailer drop? I don't know. Probably in a week or two. Who do I think the Legendary Lord for Kislev is going to be? I think it's going to be Mother Ostankia, to be honest. I feel like she's the only, like, big option. What am I eating? I had some mini Twix. And I'm just chowing down on 3 of them real quick. Give myself a little sugar to power through the afternoon. Is 4.0 set to release before the end of August? Before the end of summer. And I think they mean summer in, like, the elementary school sense, not in the actual sense. So probably before the end of August, yeah. Stop teasing us and release the trailer for $50,000. Sure. If this is the Zinch cult focus DLC and it's not Van Horseman, it's a bit of a thematic miss. It depends on how they do it. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do Van Horseman, you also kind of want to have more of a focus on the Empire, less on Cathay and Kislev, because, like, Igram's whole thing is his rivalry / antagonism with the Empire. Like, Igram, his whole focus is the colleges of magic, and corrupting the colleges of magic. I do still think that Igram should be, like, the biggest, baddest cultist character, but I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the Changeling. Because the Changeling is probably going to be more about, like... I don't think the Changeling is going to be as much about cults as he is about going to be, like, perverting settlements against their owners. Which I think is going to be different. Oh yeah, I thought... if you had asked me, which I talked about in my video, if you had asked me 2-3 months ago who I thought the Legendary Lord was, I would have said the Blue Scribes or Igram von Horseman. I never would have said the Changeling. Because in my head, at the time, I thought, well, the Changeling doesn't really strike me as, like, a good faction leader. But the more I've had time to think about it over the past few months, the more I've kind of come to the idea that actually the Blue Scribes are probably a bad idea for a faction leader, and that I think the Changeling could make for a really fun lord, but they're gonna have to do some weird shit with him. He's gonna have to be a very weird character. But I think the confirmation that he's going to be able to turn into other characters. I am so fucking excited for the Changeling mechanics. Changeling mechanics are probably going to be hype as fuck. Mr. Vorn! Yes, I also enjoyed the sassy Changeling. How do I think the Changeling will operate? I don't know. I feel like he's going to have some pretty... The only things that the short story, I think, kind of hinted at is that he's going to have a lot of mechanics revolving around screwing over cities that are owned by other factions. Gree! Hello, Gree! I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. Hello, everyone. Promise I'm not dead. I hope the world has been kind towards you. Creative Assembly pulling me back into their game with the best Cathayan boy of them all. So, okay, let's start with this. How do y'all like Yuan Bo's design?
What are the thoughts? What are the thoughts on Yuan Bo's design? Give me like a out of 5. Give me like 0 out of 5 is absolute trash. 5 out of 5 is like he's your favorite in the game. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 4 out of 5s. Or like high 4 out of 5s. Okay, that's pretty good. Couple of 5s. A 6 out of 5. Wow, somebody's thirsty. I like how Professor Pone says 4 out of 5. He's no Miao Ying, and then the comment directly under him says makes Miao Ying look drab. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of really high scores, to be honest. Why is... Hold on. Steam is, like, allowing me to be bothered, and that... Oh, I know why. I know why. Let's see. I need to turn on Do Not Disturb. There we go. Okay. So a couple things before we just like are shooting the shit and having fun. Number 1, do not forget right here, the link is already up for it. So if you want to have notification reminders set to go, you can go trigger that right now to make sure you get a whatever, an alert about it. But tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, or camera's out of focus. Why does that only happen on YouTube? That's weird. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. CST or 4 p.m. BST is Lorebeards. So we're doing a really badass stream with Andy Law, who is he's no longer a guest. Andy Law is not a guest. He is my co-host, which is fantastic. But we're going to be talking about the winds of magic. We're going to be talking about the lores of magic, the winds of magic, all of the goodies behind magic, how it works, what are the laws behind it, what are the mysteries behind it, all that stuff. So, should be super duper duper cool. But very excited to talk about it. You should rename yourself to Andy Tall so that you'll fit in. I have to legally change my name to Andy if I'm going to be a big Warhammer guy. So yeah. But that'll be on YouTube and Twitch. So if you would prefer to watch on Twitch, you can head over to twitch.tv/Loremaster Sotek tomorrow at that time and check it out. If you want to watch it here on YouTube, you can watch it there on YouTube. Will I do a review of the Koresh fan project from World Anvil? Sure, we could do that. I could probably do that this upcoming week. I should have some time. I'm gonna be recording my Araby video probably tonight or tomorrow, and that'll come out in a few days. Hey, Bishop and Chatter, what's up? Let's see. He's Warhammer's Cow. Nice. They mentioned the short story about a terracotta beast. I think it's the terracotta monster they mentioned seemed less like a monster and more like a piece of construction as part of a building, but it could be that it is going to be a playable monster. Have I congratulated Andy on hitting 1K yet? No, we'll do it tomorrow during the stream. When the winds of magic belong to Nagash. Do I have one fun fact about Nagash that isn't well known? Love your big skelly guy. Dude, there's so much stuff on Nagash. That's like really fun, interesting lore. Let's see, just off the top of my head, some really fun little things about him. Number one, so not a super well-known thing about him. Nagash was so powerful, near like the zenith of his power, that the Nehekaran gods themselves basically declared war on him and sent their equivalents of greater demons out to fight him. And Nagash won handedly. And the one leftover that we have from this battle is that Thra, the sun god, and debatably the most powerful member of the Nehekaran pantheon, sent down angels. What we would understand as angels. His divine servants look like what we would define as angels. And so they came down and they had this big epic battle with Nagash. And Nagash not only defeated them, but he then ripped them apart and used his sorcery to remake them into his own image. And he created new ultra powerful servants out of them called Morghas. Morghasts. There's Morghas Harbingers and Morghas... I forget what the other ones are called. But you could Google them. Morghasts. Look up Morghas. They have really, really badass models. But those are technically Warhammer model or fantasy models. They are not... although they are used in Age of Sigmar... Archai, thank you. Yes, the Morghas Archai and the Morghas Harbinger. They originate from Warhammer Fantasy in the End Times. They are not actually full-on AOS ones. I was expecting Egrim, not the Changeling. Hey, man, I was in the same boat. Well, that's not true. I was expecting the Blue Scribes. Because I really think that they should do demons for this wave, not mortals. Because I really want to get all the lesser demon characters in. But, yeah. Is there a limited number of Morghas in the world? Well, technically... Okay, this is going to be a really stupid answer, but it is the right answer, which is that, Angel, technically... there is a limited amount of everything in the world. Like, asking, is there a limited amount is like, I mean, yes, but that's true for everything. It would be more of like, what kind of background? Could I put on some background music? Can y'all not hear the Total War music? You know what? I don't actually want to listen to the Total War music yet right now. I just want to chat for a while. Hold on. Let me put on something. Something chill and fun. What's something I can listen to that I'm like, yeah, I enjoy this. Oh, I know. Oh God, what's like good background music? What's good background music that's not gonna get me in trouble with YouTube? Hold on, that's the correct way to ask that question. There we go. That's fine. Let me know how that is. Oh, I'll even turn that up a smidge. You should be able to hear it. Okay, just something nice and chill in the background. We don't need anything super intense. Love the sibling quarreling. Yeah, I think one of the things I love so much about this book, this short story we got, was the sheer amount of lore. David Geimer and also Andy Hall, but David Geimer did, Andy Hall, I believe, was advising, and David Geimer did the actual writing. So fucking good. Like, oh my God, the reveal of, Shinsama. Holy shit, dude, we got the Spirit Dragon. Oh my God, I'm so excited about the Spirit Dragon confirmation. So excited about that. Have I seen the pics from the reveal in China with the additional pics and a possible Jade Doggo? No, someone sent me that on Discord, or at me on Discord with that. Hey Sotek, if Cathay has the biggest population in the world, why do they have such little lore? Because we did not start exploring Grand Cathay until Total War Warhammer 3. Games Workshop did not like exploring Cathay. Because Games Workshop was almost purely focused on Warhammer the Old World, and Cathay was not a playable faction. Where is Kislev? We don't know yet. There is a settlement in central Cathay called Shiyama's Rest. Is that a reference to the Spirit Dragon? That I would say that seems very likely. It could be that's where the Spirit Dragon was struck down. Could be that's where she was killed. Yes, the Spirit Dragon, Shinyama, she is the Death Dragon. So she is the dragon of the elemental wind of spirit, which we know as the Wind of Death, also known as Shaish. And she lies slumbering at the bottom of the Dragon River, which no one can cross. I had the joy of finding out about Yuan Bo today while sat in Bugman's bar at Warhammer World. Oh, Mr. Vorn, that's so awesome! I'm jealous. I wish I could go to Warhammer World. Is that Ghibli music? No, it's Breath of the Wild. Zelda. Hurls, thanks so much for becoming a member. Thank you, Hurls. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Is there magic that an Anvil of Doom cannot handle? I mean, it is very, very possible to overload an Anvil of Doom by striking a rune incorrectly, which can cause it to explode. So, yes. The Anvil of Doom is a very precise magical engine. You cannot just willy-nilly hit shit on it. You have to be very smart. Where is Yuan Bo gonna start? I don't fucking know. Start positions are like, they are all over the place. I try not to guess those too hard. I mean, the short story seems to take place in Cathay, but it's more likely that it is very likely to me that the short story is about the Realm of Chaos storyline, like the storyline that's going to take place for the DLC, not Immortal Empires. So I would say it seems extremely likely that Yuan Bo is going to be in Grand Cathay in Realms of Chaos. For Immortal Empires, he could literally be anywhere. I genuinely don't think this confirms the Changeling. CA wouldn't just quietly slip that in there without any fanfare. I disagree that was quiet or without fanfare. I mean, I would say the Changeling is the second biggest bomb of that short story. Because either he is the Legendary Lord or he is the DLC Legendary Hero. Because we already know that the free LC Legendary Hero is Echoed Hellbrass. So I would say that, like, so it's either... I would say that was plenty of fanfare, to be honest. What do I think about implementing Abarash like Gotrek and Felix? You could do that, I guess, but a lot of people really don't like the way Gotrek and Felix are in the game, so that probably wouldn't be a popular decision, so I would lean on probably not a great idea. Next week, we should get a short story featuring Mother Ostankia and the Changeling. Hey, I'd be all here for it. I'd be down for that. Could be Egrim as the Legendary Lord and Changeling as Legendary Hero who's just causing mischief at Egrim's order. It could be, but I feel like the Changeling is a very strong candidate for Legendary Lord. And I also don't think it's going to be Egrim. I feel like if you're going to use Egrim von Horseman, you're going to kind of want to wind him up in an Empire-related thing. I think because this is focusing on Kislev and Grand Cathay, I really think that it's going to be... I really think it's just the Changeling is the Legendary Lord. I loved how in the end, the bureaucrat was almost feared by the Dragon Lady, pardon my inebriation, as the executioner of the Emperor makes him a little more interesting. Well, I think the part that I agree. The thing I really liked about the short story is that it clearly shows that Yuan Bo is not a diplomat. Like, he is a diplomat, but that is not what his real job is. That's more of like a cover. Like, yes, he is the Grand Administrator, but his real job is that he is the executioner. Like, for those that are 40k fans, he basically seems to be Gilliman, whatever you call him, and Lehman Russ, like, combined into a single character. He honestly seems to be the most dangerous of the Dragon Kids as far as, like, overall. Like, I think Miao Ying is I think Miao Ying could, beat him through physical strength. And I do think that she carries more, she carries a more honorable position than him, being the defender of the Great Bastion. But Yuan Bo seems to wield a insane amount of authority. Like, he full-on has significant support from his mother and his father. He seems more balanced. Yuan Bo seems like he is yin and yang, whereas Miao Ying was just yin and Zhao Ming was just yang, which is very curious. Mr. Anderson. I appreciate the content and lore you bring to one of my favorite games. Thanks for the many great videos. No, thank you for hanging out here, and thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you for all the support and showing up and stuff. There's actually a lot we could talk about today. Executioner / regent by job. Paperwork's a hobby. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Ford. Yeah, Diego, that would be really cool. I would love, based on his story, I would love to see that Yuan Bo would have, if he has spells from the lore of Yin and Yang, and then like a couple of heaven spells, that would be super duper cool. Paunch, from what I've read, there are 9 dragon children, but only 8 winds. That's correct, Paunch, and it's a really cool thing and kind of a mystery. So we know there are 8 winds of magic, and there are 9 dragon children. So that means there's something weird going on with the 9th dragon child. So the question is the 9th dragon child a combination of all the winds, or is the 9th dragon child like repelling or disassociated from all the winds? My personal fan theory at the moment is that the 9th dragon child, not necessarily in birth order, but the one that is not associated with a single wind was associated with all of them. You know, Saruman of the many colors, or Saruman the many colored is what he's called in the book, right? So I think that dragon child became a chaos dragon. I think the 9th chaos dragon, the 9th dragon child of the celestial dragon emperor, who had all of the winds, I believe that is Flame Fang. Because Flame Fang, we know, was a Cathayan dragon of, like, terrifying power, who ultimately fell to Tzeentch and got its big scaled hands on the Eye of Shirian. And the Eye of Shirian is considered, like, one of the most powerful magical artifacts in existence, because it not only allows you to see the winds of magic, even if you're not magical, but it allows you to control the winds and allows you to see the future. And the 9th dragon, that Flame Fang had it. Flame Fang had the Eye of Shirian and was using it. And it took until Archaon for Flame Fang to die. Well, depending on which version of the story you go with. In the novels, Flame Fang was killed eventually in Grand Cathay, but then a ritual is cast and by Shirian, which resurrects Flame Fang, and then Archaon kills Flame Fang again. In the original story, like the more broad story, Flame Fang is not killed. Flame Fang instead like retreats to the southern Chaos Wastes, and just lives there as like a terrifying demigod until Archaon finally kills him. Was the eye on his forehead? No, it was inside of his guts. Like, it was inside and embedded in his body. So Archaon had to get eaten by him, and the only reason Archaon survived that was because he had the armor of Morkar by that point. So the armor of Morkar protected him. Do I think we'll get a Cathay legendary hero? I think that is certainly possible. I would love to get Shihong. If we got Shihong, the Master Artificer of Nangao, as a legendary hero, I would be very pleased. The 9th dragon child is the 9th ever chosen? I mean, it could be. We don't know who the 9th ever chosen is. Sotek, you forgot a type of monk mentioned in Yuan Bo's book. No. I talked about them. I did talk about the ancestral monks. It was just later in the video. Are the Cathayan parents of Miao Ying and Zhao Ming able to directly impact the world? Yes. Yes, the Celestial Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress are part of the world. They are like physical beings. But they are, however, you see it actually noted in Yuan Bo's story, but the two of them have been growing more and more distant from earthly affairs. So they're up to something up in the Celestial City. We don't know what they're doing. But supposedly, the Celestial Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress have been preparing for something, and they are about to unleash their own plan that somehow intersects with the end times. But we don't know what that is. Gregory, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It's my hopeful theory that the Changeling is a legendary hero and CA and GW flesh out the brothers of Tarmacon, as it could make a very interesting DLC theme for the future. That would be really awesome. That would be completely up to Games Workshop at this point. I don't think CA would have any authority in that particular discussion. That would be purely up to GW if they want to dig up Tarmacon's brothers. Do I think the possibility for Beastmen of Tzeentch to join the roster? I think it's extremely likely Zongors will make an appearance. Do I think Yuan Bo is going to be the last Dragon Child added? No. I think we're going to get all 5 of them, to be honest. As long as the DLCs continue to perform well and they keep making content for the game, I do think we will get all 5 Dragon Children. So I think we will also get Yin Yin and Li Dao in time. Do you think this is the last paid support Tzeentch gets? No, I think there will be more Tzeentch content in the future, because Tzeentch will still have at least 1 or 2 big named characters that they'll probably want to make into Legendary Lords. What about the Light Dragon? Shinzu? I do not believe Shinzu will be playable, because the whole kind of... the Cathayan lore very explicitly states that there are 5 active Dragon Children. Shinzu, she's missing. That's the whole point. If CA, I don't know if Games Workshop would allow them to do it, but if CA and Games Workshop wanted to make us all very, very happy, maybe they could one day add in Shinzu as like a reward for winning the campaign. But yeah, I don't know. What units will Tzeentch get along with the Changeling? I think, well, go watch my Shadows of Change videos. I have a whole bunch of them. I think I have one dedicated to each faction. So I have a video for Tzeentch, a video for Grand Cathay, and a video for Kislev. For Tzeentch, the big things that come to mind are, so what are we missing from Chaos, right? We are missing Zongors, which are Tzeentchian Beastmen. We are missing the Chimera from the Warriors of Chaos. We're missing the Mutalith Vortex Beast from the Warriors of Chaos. We're missing... let's see, what other monsters that are Chaos aligned? Yeah, they could do the Fireworm. The Fireworm. Flamers on discs. We already have Flamers on discs. We have the Exalted Flamer, which that's what that is. Greater Chaos Spawn could be. Do I think that DLCs could have trailers kind of similar to the Immortal Empires trailers? Maybe. I have no idea. Do I think the Dragon Emperor will avert the end times in a new fantasy timeline? No. I know this is not a popular thing, right? I get it. Trust me, I get it. I really do. But I think that we have to accept that the end times is the canonical ending of the Warhammer Fantasy Universe. There's no getting around it. The best case scenario is that the Celestial Dragon Emperor's plan somehow preserves part of Grand Cathay so that it survives into Age of Sigmar. That would be the best case scenario. The more likely case scenario is that he had his own Uber plan to either try to co-opt the end times or prevent it, and it just fails for whatever reason. Do we know what dragon children did in the end times? No, because the dragon children didn't exist as a concept when the end times were written. Thomas Egg, take care, dude. Thanks for coming by. Good to see you. Do I think Araby will worship the Nehekaran gods? No. I do not think Araby will worship gods at all, actually. I think Araby is going to be much closer to a druidic isn't the right word. I think they are going to be much more of a culture that acknowledges spirits and much less of a culture that acknowledges gods, if that makes sense. But I do not think they will worship the Nehekaran gods. They might, but that it would be weird because Araby is not part of Nehekara. Nehekara very, very much did their best to conquer Araby, and they always referred to Araby as the desert tribes. So the Arabians would probably be much more about acknowledging like the spirits of the desert. No, not animals. Didn't they literally worship Allah in the old lore? Yes, they did, but that's not going to be a thing in the new lore. I can tell you 100% there will be no Allah in the new lore because that they're going to sink that. They're going to blow that up and sink it to the bottom of the ocean. Games Workshop is very, very clear in their newer lore that they do not want real world religions in the Warhammer Fantasy world. So like there is no Christianity, there's no Judaism, and there's no Islam in Warhammer Fantasy. They are not there. They don't exist. So you would not see them there. Is Myrmidia God? No, Myrmidia's still around. She's literally Athena. Okay, well, Greek pantheon doesn't count because no one there's not really like major cultures that are still around that worship the Greek pantheons. You know, those are kind of considered in the safe territory. I saw a video where a theory could be they make two timelines, one following the Storm of Chaos and the other following the end times. Gregory, I think that is very unlikely. I think they're much more likely to delve into exploring the thousands and thousands of years of Warhammer Fantasy history that have been left vague and unexplored. We're simply going to explore those. We could spend the next, in real world time, we could spend the next 100 years exploring the Warhammer Fantasy world within the timeline given to us by the end times, and we still would not have fully explored it all. God, it's fucking hot. What happened to the Nehekaran Pantheon? They were functionally killed. They're still, like, sorta kinda around, but the long and short of it is that they were wiped out by Nagash. Any more flying beasts for Cathay possible in the future? Well, yeah. Hell's Gate, I don't know if you've ever like gone and looked at like Chinese mythology, but there is like so much stuff to pull from. Like, it's exhausting how much mythological creatures, all of the various like thousands and thousands of years of literature and storytelling have created in China. What are my thoughts about another paid Dragon Kid instead of the Monkey King? I was really hoping for the Monkey King, but I get they want to include all the Dragon Kids as quickly as possible. I'm fine with it, as long as it's like, it comes with suitable amounts of content. Did Thra just sort of die when Nagash killed all the Nehekarans? I don't know if I would say Thra is fully dead, but Thra was certainly... So, something I talk about in my The Nature of the Soul video, which you should go watch if you haven't at some point, is that the way the Warhammer gods get their power is that they feed on the they feed on the souls of those who worship them in life. So people that worship them or emulated their ideals and stuff like that, essentially act as a battery or food for the gods through their worship and also when they die. So the problem with Nehekara is that Nehekara, to a soul, was wiped out. The only people in the entirety of Nehekara who are still alive are the Lich Priests. And there's not that many of them. So for Nehekara, the vast majority of their worship and the Nehekaran gods, their worshippers, all that goodness, all that just like, food that kept them alive and functioning, gone very suddenly. So the Nehekaran gods are starving. And you could argue that they're still around. They still get the slightest of scraps from the Lich Priests and from the Tomb Kings and stuff that are brought back. But compared to what they used to get, they are a fraction of the power they once wielded. What happened to Katerin in the end times? I'm going to hardcore TLDR it for you, but basically, Katerin, Kislev falls, the city, and Katerin basically leads a resistance force running around the Oblasts trying to fight against what they can, and eventually they get tracked down by Ungrel Forhorn, who is a Beastman special character, who is acting as a very, very good scout for, I can't remember his name, but it's the Chaos Lord that killed Boris Ursus. The Chaos Lord that killed him actually is leading a new giant army. And so the last scene that we get involving Katerin is that she gathers all of the surviving forces of Kislev's army as a bunch of refugees are put on a boat and sent to Altdorf. The rest of them, all that's left of Kislev's armies, gather up alongside Katerin, and Erskine, Boris's bear, shows up to fight alongside them. And across the field from them is like an endless horde of warriors of chaos and beastmen and demons and whatever you can imagine, led by the man that killed Boris Ursus. And we literally get like a the last charge of the Rohirrim moment where the two armies come to collide into each other. And basically, Kislev's goal is not to win, but just to deal as much damage as possible. And we don't see what happens in the end. But it's, safely assumed they all die. Why aren't I on Twitch? Because I like to mix things up from time to time. Sue me. What happened to Kotep in the end times? He found out how to kill Nagash and returned to tell Cetra how to do it. And then Cetra, because Cetra declared that if Kotep ever returned, he'd be executed, Kotep was like, all right, I told you how to kill Nagash, and that's all the information I have. So, do what you gotta do. And Cetra's word is law, so Cetra decapitates him. Of course, there's a real life religion. As a German, I can tell you we and the dwarfs are worshipping beer. Did Katerin ride a bear in the Lord? No. Katerin did not ride on Erskine. Erskine was like next to her, but she didn't mount him. He was just kind of there. The Changeling could start position in Warhammer Korea. Yeah, that could be cool. Imagine if the 8th Dragon Child became the Nipponese Emperor. So my fan theory, Dimitri, my fan theory for the 8th Dragon Child, the Shadow Dragon Child, is I think the Shadow Child fled. I think the Shadow Dragon fled Grand Cathay because she either did not like the role imposed on her. Well, I don't know if it's a her or not. I'm just picking a thing. They did not like the role imposed on them by their father and mother. And something happened, and I believe they fled Grand Cathay. And I do believe that the Shadow Dragon fled to Nippon. I 100% think the Shadow Dragon fled to Nippon, but I do not think the Shadow Dragon is Emperor. I think instead Nippon has its own dragons, because the Celestial Dragon Emperor, he is a species of dragon. But he is not the only dragon of his kind. There are other dragons that are similar to him. And it's likely that Nippon has its own dragons, and I believe they took in the shadow dragon as an adopted daughter or an adopted son. I believe they willingly accepted them and took them in Nippon, which would be a huge sore point between Grand Cathay and Nippon. That could be a really, really fun way to explore the lore dynamics between those two nations. Is that whatever creatures rule over Nippon, like, willingly accepted in the Shadow Dragon, which, you know, would piss off the Celestial Dragon Emperor big time. And it would also allow Nippon to know a lot about Grand Cathay, because they literally have one of the Dragon Kids with them. Will we see the Dragon Ogre / Dragon relationship with Cathay being developed? Possibly. It is distinctly possible that Shiyama, the Spirit Dragon, was killed by a Dragon Ogre. I would actually not be shocked. I would not be shocked at all if it was revealed that, like, Kolek Sun Eater or some other dragon or Dragon Ogre Shagath, like a big one, killed Shiyama in, like, ancient primordial times. Because I'm not sure when Shiyama died. If Shiyama died before the coming of chaos, then it was almost certainly a Dragon Ogre Shagath that killed her. Or some equivalent type creature, you know, a primordial, big, bad, nasty beast. Whereas, if it happened after the coming of chaos, then it was probably a greater demon. I just got a pizza delivered and the dough feels undercooked. Call them. They don't want you to leave a bad review. I genuinely think they would much rather you call them and be like, hey man, I got a pizza. It doesn't feel cooked. Like, is there any way we can kind of like sort this out or something? A Sky Titan, maybe? It could have been a Sky Titan, but to me, that doesn't really match what the Sky Titans were like. The Sky Titans were isolationists who were said to be relatively peaceful and didn't like messing with other people. They just wanted to be left alone. I don't think they would necessarily be interested in... I don't think that would necessarily fit their character. And granted, you could have that maybe she was expanding into their territory and got in a fight with one and got killed. But considering we know there was a massive war between the Dragon Ogres and the dragons, we could have a lot of fun with that. What about the ogres? It's too early for the ogres. Because it says that we know that the Spirit Dragon was killed before any of the other dragon children were even born. So Shiyama, the Spirit Dragon, was the first. She was the firstborn. And she was killed before 2 through 9 were born. So she died very, very early in the timeline. Does Miao Ying hate Yin Yin, or at least disapproves? Yeah, I would say Miao Ying does not like Yin Yin at all. From what little bits we've gathered about Yin Yin seems to be very impetuous and warmongering. Like, Yin Yin seems like the child who has caused a lot of problems. Considering that the lore suggests that Yin Yin was the one that led the invasion of Lustria and the Southlands in a bid to take over the Southlands, but she did not know that Lustria existed. And so she was trying to do a pincer move on the Southlands to conquer it, but she didn't know Lustria existed. So instead of a pincer move, instead she invaded one half of the Southlands and the other half of Lustria, and both her invasions got obliterated. Like the Slann just summoned a bunch of typhoons that wiped out the invasion going to the Southlands, and then in Lustria, her fleet got decimated down to a single man relatively easily. So she was... It seems very likely that Yin Yin was pretty heavily disgraced by that. And Miao Ying also probably doesn't like any of her siblings, to be honest. I mean, Miao Ying is literally known as... What's that goofy phrase we all make fun of? She is cold and... what's the meme? Somebody will know it. She's cold and aloof. Yeah, she's cold and aloof. Like, that's Miao Ying's literal thing, is that she's cold and aloof. So I don't think she likes anybody. You know, in the story, Yuan Bo notes that the only entity on the planet that can make Miao Ying smile is her dad. Not even her mom can make her smile. Only dad can. So yeah, I don't think Miao Ying likes anybody. Do I think the other dragon kids are afraid of Yuan Bo? I don't think they're afraid of him unless he unless he like fully reminds them of his authority and power. I do not think that, I think they tend to make fun of him a lot. I think they like to poke at him that he is an administrator and that he sits in court all day and he's busy writing edicts and doesn't spend much, and he also has the cushiest job, right? Yuan Bo doesn't have to defend any of the borders. Yin Yin is constantly defending against Nippon and dark elves and high elves and whatever the fuck else might be out in the ocean. Fishmen. Li Dao is the busiest, constantly under attack by like greenskins and the Naga of Koresh and the Tigermen of End and the Monkey King. And then out west, you've got Miao Ying, who supposedly is going batshit crazy, but he's also dealing with a lot of ogres and Skaven. And then Yuan Bo's just sitting at home, you know, in the center province. So I would say there's a lot to be said that the other dragon kids probably resent Yuan Bo because he, from their perspective, he has the cushiest job. Now, granted, Yuan Bo also seems to have the secret police job among the dragon kids, seeing as he seems to be the only one of them that is allowed to wield the Onyx Crowmen with strong authority, thanks to Mom, and he also is the only one that's allowed to pass edicts thanks to Dad. You know, he's trusted with a shitload of power. And he also seems far more preoccupied with rooting out cults than the other children are. What will Mother Ostenka do if she's going to be in this DLC? I don't know. I'm really excited to find out, though. Who is the oldest Dragon Assembly? We now have it 100% confirmed that Shiyama, the Spirit Dragon, is the oldest, but she's also dead. The second oldest seems to be Yuan Bo. Because Shiyama talked... When Shiyama... The Changeling turns into Shiyama to, like, fuck with Yuan Bo. And what she/it says to Yuan Bo is, you know, your job should have been mine. You took what was mine. So it seems very much that Yuan Bo is the second born. He is the firstborn son. So Yuan Bo is likely the firstborn son because that's how he got a lot of his jobs. And then Miao Ying is the eldest daughter that is still alive. So we have Shiyama as the eldest and died before any of the others woke up. Then Yuan Bo is the second oldest and the oldest boy. And then Miao Ying is the third oldest and the eldest living daughter. I believe that Zhao Ming is the youngest. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. I feel very, very confident that Zhao Ming is the youngest son, but I think he's also the youngest. Because he kind of gives off those vibes. But I don't believe that's been confirmed. Wasn't it stated early on that Miao Ying is the oldest child? It could be that she's the oldest. Maybe? I'd have to go check. Because according to this short story we just got, she is the third oldest. Isn't Li Dao the youngest? He might be. I don't know. I need to bother Andy Hall and see if he'll let me bug him to answer some questions. Do I think any of the Cathay characters could show in Age of Sigmar? That is certainly possible. Love your videos? Well, I love you, King. Thanks. You're a king. Wear that crown, son. I also like the mention of Yuan's human dynasty. Jingbo being the oldest. Big implication the separate dynasties exist across all provinces. Yeah, absolutely. Cathay army book is needed. Yep. Which Andy? Andy Hall. So Andy Hall is the Andy that works at Creative Assembly and is in charge of all of their lore. He's the lore king at Creative Assembly, and he's in charge for writing a lot of the new stuff. Kislev already got Ulrika, so we'll probably get a Cathayan legendary hero. That could be. Could be. I feel like I need to watch the Cathay Lorebeards episode again. Probably would not be a bad idea. Think we'll see that Kislevite swordsman who trained in Cathay. Can't recall the name. No idea. Really hope we get a Onyx Crowman hero. I doubt that. The Onyx Crowmen do not seem like they are... they don't seem like they would be anything but units, considering it seems that a lot of Cathayans can't even see them. I don't think that they would be a leadership type role. I think I missed a super chat. Oh, yes, you're correct. DJN, thank you for the super chat. Strange that the Changeling won't be able to act as an agent, since he'll be forced to lead armies and build empires. Doesn't really seem like him. Well, that's not necessarily true, DJN. I don't know if you played a Deathmaster Snitch campaign, but Deathmaster Snitch is literally a legendary lord who can perform agent actions. That's the whole point of his campaign. So I'm kind of expecting the Changeling to be very similar to Deathmaster Snitch, where he is going to be able to perform agent actions despite being a legendary lord. That's not new to Total War. We've seen that before. So Yuan Bo is a hero? No, Yuan Bo is a legendary lord. I am 100% sure of that. I think I need Egrim to remain alive. Oh god, I hope not, because otherwise you might be dead soon. Sotek the Crowman literally perform hero-style assassinations in the story and scouting, though. Yeah, but your units can do that too. Like, if you have a unit of birdmen, they can scout the battlefield and have passive bonuses that make them better at spotting enemy units or have like a longer spotting distance. And then you just right-click on an enemy character and watch them kill the character. That's exactly what they did in the story. It was not a singular crowman that assassinated somebody. It was a unit of crowmen that assassinated somebody. I was really hoping for Egrim von Horseman. I was too. Do I know why Black Library doesn't sell physical copies? Because they're assholes. Black Library is a very strange publishing company. They do not keep a very big stock. They print things in cycles. So like they'll release something and print a bunch of copies, and once they've printed a certain amount of copies, they completely stop and move on to the next thing. They don't bother with keeping a large catalog because they don't want to pay for it. And they don't seem to have very large warehouses. That's probably the most realistic answer, is that Black Library is a very small publisher compared to some. And they probably don't have a bunch of warehouse space, so they don't tend to keep like large stock. They just print X amount, ship it all out, and then they're done. Especially since they keep everything. I mean, since they keep everything as ebooks, like to them, they're like, why would we keep it as physical when we can save space and save money by just making it an ebook and calling it a day? Can the crowmen fly? Yes. It seems that they absolutely can. What is the best Lizardman lore I have? I mean, my favorite Lizardman lore that I have is the Siege of Hexwaddle, which is a fucking badass story. It's fantastic. Do I think Jiang Bo will play any prominent role in the story? Maybe, but probably not. I think he's more maybe like hinting at a new character type. Wait, which one's Jiang Bo? Is that the Shukengun or is that the like melee character? Do I think there will be other giant units in the Terracotta Sentinels? Yes, I think there will be more monstrous units. Someone, oh, actually, maybe that's what this was sent. Someone sent me something that supposedly, no, this doesn't have it. Someone claims, oh, wait, is this what they're talking about? Maybe. There have been some people who said they saw some kind of monster in one of the images at the Chinese presentation. which was at a game show in China today, which I'm looking at some screenshots from it, but I don't see anything that's really jumping out at me. So, but I would not be shocked if there was a new monster. Because that would just kind of be easy to do. I think Shinzu could work as a good legendary hero if they're allowed to use her. Yeah, she could be pretty cool. Did my chat break? Or did everybody just get very quiet very suddenly? No, it's suspicious. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, no, y'all are there. Okay, that was weird. Okay. Okay, you were getting... Okay, okay. No, it's back. It's back. It's fine. We're back. Oh, the male Shukagen who commanded Yuan Bo's army. Oh, he might, like, appear in some kind of, like, short story or something. But I don't think... Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to go super duper far with that. I would love to make him see some kind of appearance, but I don't think he's gonna, like, at best he'll probably be like an advisor for your campaign. Are there any human characters for Cathay I would like to see beyond Shi-Hong? If we could get Shi-Hong and then maybe I would really like to get a Kung Fu character. Cause like Kung Fu is awesome and it's such like a so much of Chinese media like loves Kung Fu and has taken it to such ridiculous levels in like the best way that I feel like Warhammer has to have a big badass Kung Fu character or else we've done it wrong. So I would very, very much like to see some sort of Grandmaster character. Either so the two monks we hear about in the short story, we hear about the Wuxing monks, but they didn't seem very martial. And then there's another mention of the, I forget what they're called. I think it's the ancestor monks or the ancestral monks that watch over the 10 courts of Shaish. Can I tell you anything about the Golden Knight of Kislev? Yes. Not a lot, though. So what little bits we know, I forget her name off the top of my head, but we know it's a woman who is the daughter of the prior Golden Knight, and that she's said to be an even better swordsman than he was. And she also is said to be probably the greatest swordsman in Kislev. She wears a golden suit of armor that was forged specifically for her and also heavily enchanted, likely by Katerin herself. And last we heard, she is currently on a diplomatic mission in the Empire. So she was sent down to Altdorf for diplomacy reasons, and we haven't heard about her since. But she's out there somewhere. Yeah. It's like Naryeshka. Yeah. Yeah, she's like, well, I'd say she's more like Kurt Helborg. I would say she's more Kurt Helborg, less Schwarzhelm. Did the short story confirm Dragon Children of the Dragon Children? No, the short story confirmed. The short story just explored some of the Shukenguns, but Shukenguns are literally the functionally half-breed children of the dragons. So the dragon children in human form mated with regular humans in order to give birth to the Shukenguns, which are dragon-blooded humans, which gives them significant prowess at controlling the winds of magic, as well as some other cool skills, and presumably some longer life, I would guess. Can I give a quick cover on who the Changeling is in the lore? Sure, so I talk about him a fair bit in the Shadows of Change episode on Tzeentch, which you can go check out on the channel pretty easily. However, the Changeling, he is the grand trickster. So basically, when Tzeentch was creating all of his demons, which are, you know, like parts of him, the Changeling is Tzeentch's desire for mayhem and chaos. Not chaos with a capital C, but chaos with a lowercase c, embodied. So he is Tzeentch's desire to sow confusion and discord just for the sake of it, just for fun, just fuck with people, just for a laugh. That is what he is. He is the embodiment of that idea. So the Changeling, also known as the Trickster, is he is the most gifted shapeshifter in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, where he is able to shapeshift into anything and everything that he has ever seen. It's said that the only thing the Changeling cannot shift into is Tzeentch's form, like the god Tzeentch. He cannot shift into Tzeentch's true form because he does not know it. But he is able to shift into anything else. Like, he could shift into gods, he could shift into a feather, or a piece of dust, or a bug, or a dog, or Miao Ying, or Tsar Boris, or Emperor Karl Franz. And the thing is, not only can he shapeshift into them, but he's able to perfectly mimic them with very, very little exceptions. So he kind of gets some of their memories. He can wield many of their skills. There are limitations to what he can do, but the limitations are fairly not huge. But basically, he just runs around being a dick. One of the only things the world has going for it is that the Changeling is more focused on causing mayhem for a giggle and less concerned with actually dealing damage. So thankfully, a lot of the stuff that he does is more about just sowing problems instead of directly like threatening nations and things like that, because he's very, very effective. But some of his most famous jaunts, probably the most famous thing that he ever did was that he actually pissed off Khorne more than like can possibly be expressed, where the Changeling was able to shapeshift into a form that allowed him to sneak into Khorne's citadel. And once he had snuck his way inside, Khorne had gone out on campaign. Like, Khorne went to go fight. And so the Changeling closed the doors to the brass citadel and he welded them shut from the inside. So basically, he used all of his sorcery to lock Khorne's door so Khorne couldn't get back into his house, and then he peaced out. So when Khorne came home, Khorne literally had to lay siege to his own citadel and break the doors down just so he could get back inside, which of course massively pissed Khorne off. That's considered that seems to be considered the Changeling's like favorite thing that he ever did. But there was also a fairly complex ploy he did where he snuck into the Garden of Slaanesh. Like, he snuck through all the 6 rings to the Palace of Slaanesh itself, and there are two separate occasions he's been there. There's one occasion where the Changeling snuck into Slaanesh's bedchamber and actually cut his hair. So he cut some of Slaanesh's hair off. I don't remember what he did with it, but that, like, that caused a whole fucking thing. But there was another time that he stole one of the golden apples from Slaanesh's garden, and then he took it into Nurgle's gardens, and he left the golden apple to rot amongst Nurgle's garden, where it would be discovered. So Slaanesh discovers that one of his apples is missing, and his scouts and agents discover that it's rotting in Nurgle's garden. So Slaanesh declares war on Nurgle. Nurgle's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and, you know, has to defend himself. So it ends up causing a huge war between Slaanesh and Nurgle. There's also some shenanigans. I want to say there's a time that he fucked with Nurgle by either, like, I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was something like he messed up one of the recipes for his plague, or like he put a crack in the cauldron or something. But he did something that really upset Nurgle. But he does a lot of goofy things. Can I prove I'm not the Changeling? No, no one can prove they're not the Changeling. Well, that's not true. If you had some sort of artifact or relic that can like harm demons, or has like a significant reaction when interacting with a demon, you can, figure it out. Also, if you just know the person very, very intimately, like Yuan Bo figured out that the Changeling was not Miao Ying, because the Changeling's disguise wasn't perfect, because there were cultural things that the Changeling didn't understand. Also, the Changeling's ploy to destroy Nan Li was like a little obvious. And Yuan Bo didn't give a shit if his sister approved of him getting involved or not. He just got involved. So he saved the thing. What kind of lord do I think Yuan Bo will be? Duelist or caster? I think he'll be a pretty good duel. I think he'll be like the other two, in the sense that he will be a gifted wizard as well as a very gifted combatant. But considering that he actually has magic items, seeing as he has that big fuck you sword, and he also seems to have a suit of armor, I'm guessing he will be I'm thinking his human form will be more dangerous than Miao Ying or Zhao Ming's human forms were. Because I think he's going to be able to deal a lot more damage thanks to whatever his magic items do. Will the advisor be a universal legendary hero for all factions? When you say the advisor, do you mean the old man? Will he have buffs to peasants? I highly doubt it. Yuan Bo probably does not. Yuan Bo doesn't give a shit about peasants. The only one of the dragon kids that actually seems to care about humans is Zhao Ming. Yes. I don't think the advisor will ever be a playable character, especially because all of the DLCs we've been getting do not have him. Like, he's explicitly not part of Champions of Chaos. And I highly suspect that he is explicitly not going to be part of Shadows of Change. Like, if he doesn't show up ever again, I think it's just, he's just kind of there. Like, his story's just there for fun. You think the voice actor retired? I haven't heard that. What happens if Oxiodal goes up against the Changeling? The Changeling gets absolutely butt slapped is what happens. Because Oxiodal has like a divine sense. He knows things that are not fair for him to know, which is really bad news for the Changeling. Miao Ying doesn't care about humans? No. Miao Ying does not care about humans at all. Miao Ying sees humans as an means to an end. You are numbers to be thrown at the problem. Amon Shakai as a legendary lord. Amon Shakai is basically Kairos Fate Weaver. Amon Shakai and Kairos Fate Weaver are functionally the same demon. Amon Shakai is a earlier version of Kairos Fate Weaver, where he was so Amon Shakai was an extremely powerful, like obscenely powerful, exalted greater demon of Tzeentch who sits on a throne and doesn't do anything for like thousands and thousands and thousands of years because he's too busy like seeing the future, like reading all the different possibilities of time in the future and stuff. And he basically sits on a throne until a prophecy that involves a witch hunter finishes. And the witch hunter comes to kill him, and that doesn't, instead of killing him, it just wakes him up. And Amon Shakai basically gets up and goes out and starts fighting. But Amon Shakai is... what he is so good at is virtually the same as Kairos Fate Weaver. It's just that Kairos Fate Weaver is like a balanced version of Amon Shakai. Because Amon Shakai was not only a very powerful wizard, but he was also like fucking obscene at defending himself in close combat. Like, he was a very, very scary fighter and was like a giant greater demon that was just curb stomping everybody, who could also see the future and a bunch of other crazy bullshit. And Kairos is more like, okay, what if we did that, but he can't see the present, and he's also very, very weak physically, but he's an even stronger caster, and he can like also see the past without like prejudice. Like he sees the past 100% accurately. And that, you know, that's Kairos. No, I don't think you'll ever see Amon Shakai because he's just, he's Kairos. Kairos is what Amon Shakai became. Did the Monkey King ever fight the Changeling? Who knows? That is there. I don't think anyone can answer that. Maybe. That's up to you. Do I think we'll get Sartorial? We already have Sartorial. Sartorial is a unique character that has a unique starting trait in his own faction, and he's cool and he's there, but that's as far as he's ever going to get. He's supposed to have a unique model as well. I don't know if his unique model is working, though. Thoughts on the odds we'll get to see Teto Echo? I think that's pretty much guaranteed. I think it's extremely likely you will see Teto Echo. Can the Changeling have kids when transformed? Probably not. Demons... It is pretty strongly suggested that demons cannot have children normally. They have to possess someone in order to, like, kind of have a descendant. And the Changeling would never possess anyone. He would view that as probably boring and too restricting. So I do not believe he can... I do not think it is physically possible for him to have children because he refuses to possess anyone. Is it possible to gauge the power of the dragon children? From a lore standpoint, not really. We don't have enough information yet. Do I think we'll ever give Sirtha Ek the love he deserves? If by the love he deserves, you mean like he gets a unique model maybe? And a unique starting trait? Yes. If you mean as a fully playable character, no. Has any demon ever had a child? Yes. Be'lakor is Archaon's dad. Big bomb. Surprise. Twist. But yes, there are demons that possess people and have children. That happens not infrequently. Usually part of some big ploy to pull off some crazy bullshit. The Monkey King should be voice acted by John Cena. I'm going to go with a hard disagree on that. We should probably use someone that has the appropriate accent and inflection to play the Monkey King. Orgoth's Demon Spew is the son of a great unclean one? Well, he claims he's the son of a great unclean one. I don't know how much stock I put in his claim. Could we see Prince Apophis as a legendary hero? Yes, 100%. What happened to him? Nagash kills him. He tries to assassinate Nagash. And if he had been 30 minutes faster than he was, like if he had shown up 30 minutes sooner, he would have successfully assassinated Nagash. But unfortunately, he shows up too late. And when he stabs Nagash, all it does is piss Nagash off and Nagash kills him. Volton, yes or no? No. Volton, I think, is an important character to the end time storyline, but I don't think he's really great for a Total War storyline, because in order to make Volton, you kind of have to get Karl Franz out of the way. And Karl Franz is our boy in Total War. Like, he's an important character. Volton is literally just Sigmar reincarnated to replace Karl Franz. Who do I predict the 100th Legendary Lord is? I honestly think it's either Nagash or Thanquol, but I don't know how that's going to work. Do I think Khorne will be part of a 3 Lord pack? Yeah. No, I think it's a quadrilogy. A quadrilogy. So it's gonna go Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh, Khorne. Slaanesh DLC will finish off at 98 Legendary Lords. Oh, okay. Well, if number 100 is going to be part of the Khorne DLC, I mean, who knows? And they could to be fair, they could interrupt the quadrilogy to do the 100th Lord celebration. When Monkey King gonna have to be at least a year? Yeah, I think it'll be at least a year until the Monkey King. I think the Monkey King will not come out until after the Kingdoms of End is released. Because to have the Monkey King, he has to be in the Mountains of Heaven. And for the Mountains of Heaven to be what they should be, you need to be able to have End as a part of that dynamic. And the Monkey King is supposed to have a very big relationship with End. What's my favorite demon faction? Nurgle. I'm a Nurgle boy. Do I think we'll get Storm Fiends and Vermin Lords at some point? Yes, 100%. I think we should get Kabanda. I'm going to ban you. Anyone who thinks we get Kabanda goes straight in the snake pit. No trial. No jury. You're fucking snake food. Get out. Be gone. Kabanda is not a fantasy character. I don't care what anybody says. He's not even a 40k character. He's literally just a 30k character. Fuck Kabanda. Mods don't actually ban anybody. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you cannot use the Kabanda model in 40k, correct? Like, if you use his model, it has to be just a generic Greater Demon, because there's no rules for him in 40k, right? What's the Kabanda hate? Okay. I'm gonna do this. Here's the thing. Kabanda is a 40k, 30k character. Kabanda never existed in Warhammer Fantasy. He never made an appearance. Okay? Never. Not once. He's not mentioned in a single story. He's not mentioned in a single army book. He doesn't exist. Suddenly, in the end times, a lot of stupid shit happened. I am not going to sit here and defend the end times. The end times, as much as I appreciate a lot of writers and the work they do, a significant amount of the writing in the end times, especially in the last 3 books, was significantly less about killing off Warhammer Fantasy and giving it a respectful funeral, and more about just jerking off into the basket. And so the writers just started doing a lot of stupid bullshit because the writers decided it didn't matter. They were very rushed. They didn't have very concrete guidelines by Black Library Games Workshop, so they just started making shit up. And as part of making shit up, they started doing whatever they wanted instead of doing what was good for the setting. So they weren't telling good stories. They were literally just writing stupid bullshit that wasn't getting double checked, and it was just fucking awful. And so one of the things that happened is that in the 5th and final book of the end times, it's revealed that like a whole bunch of shit happens, and basically Archaon decides to go like full Khorne, which doesn't make any fucking sense. So Archaon murders Kairos Fateweaver and sacrifices Kairos Fateweaver in order to summon Kabanda. And Kabanda is randomly revealed as apparently this really big dick greater demon of Khorne, who is the leader of something known as the Blood Hunt, and he is unleashed to go track down Karl Franz and kill him. So Kabanda appears out of fucking nowhere, and he has no history. There's no prior lore to him. And I will note, Scarbrand has not actually shown up yet. So they could have used Scarbrand, and Scarbrand even ended up getting a brand new model like less than 2 years later. But and Kabanda doesn't have a fantasy model. Wow, what a fucking shock, because the authors realized it was fucking stupid and stopped and were like, no, the end times doesn't. The long story short is that the end times was extremely disrespectful to Warhammer Fantasy. Not the fact that it destroyed the world. That's fine. Like, Warhammer Fantasy has always had the implicit underline that the world is going to die. Like, chaos will win in the end. That's the way it's going to go down. But it's about the journey to that point. And Games Workshop, the writers for the end times just completely shit on Warhammer Fantasy. And it was super disrespectful. And to anyone that loved the setting or played the games or enjoyed the characters, it was a slap in the face. And it was very, very, very poorly handled. And that's why a lot of people get really upset about it. And Kabanda literally shows up out of fucking nowhere and is played off as this unstoppable god. Like, he beats Durthu in a fight. He kills the incarnate of fire, Caradriel, and he's literally unstoppable. Like, he fights a ton of characters and nobody can beat him until Sigmar finally comes back, and then Sigmar literally just one-shots him. And it's so fucking obnoxious. And that's the only time he ever shows up. And so when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, Kabanda should be a character, that's like one of the only things that will get me up out of my fat slan throne, my palanquin, to be like, no, bad, sit down. Kabanda's entire point is that he is like the rival of Sanguinius or whatever, and he has a huge hate boner for the Blood Angels. He does not make sense in fantasy. He has no point in fantasy. He does not have a relationship with fantasy. He should never, ever, ever, ever be used in fantasy ever again. He should never make an appearance in Total War. He should never show up in another book. He should never have a reference. Get that thing the fuck away from me. So there. Would I want the Changeling to be a settled faction? I don't know. It depends on how they do it. The Monkey King should be voice acted by Jackie Chan because he played a Monkey King, or the monkey in Kung Fu Panda. They could do that. Chicken Hut or Nor Chicken Hut for Mother Ostankia? I would be okay with the Chicken Hut. But if they're going to do the Chicken Hut, it should probably be like a really powerful ability or a spell or a mechanic. Like, I don't really see the Chicken Hut functioning well as a mount because I feel like to make it awesome, it would have to be really big and it would probably be kind of weird. But if you had it where it's like Van Geist's ship, where you could like cast a spell or use an ability and it like shows up and does a bunch of damage and then vanishes, that could be really cool. Or if it's like a mechanic, I would also be cool with that. Do I think we're still getting Tarmacon? I think there is a very likely chance we are getting Tarmacon, even though personally I do not want it to be Tarmacon. You're banned from the Discord server and you have no idea why. All right, what's your Discord name? Weird question, but does Khorne as a god of battle have some respect to Sigmar as a warrior? Not really, because Khorne doesn't care. It's important to note that Khorne is not a god of battle. He is a god of rage. Khorne can have like... Khorne does not understand anything but anger. He doesn't understand anything but hate. I do not think he really has the capacity to respect anyone. Because all he is wrath and rage and hatred. He is the worst kind of violence. He doesn't care who bleeds so long as somebody bleeds. So I think if anything, Sigmar would infuriate him. Because I think Sigmar would anger him because Sigmar has... I think because Sigmar has, shall we say, morals. Sigmar has rules that he abides by. He has a warrior code. I think that would frustrate Khorne. What about Valkia? Oh, Khorne likes Valkia. Khorne likes Valkia a lot. But Valkia is kind of like the ultimate expression of a Khornate. And she does her best to exemplify him in all ways. To the point where she murdered her own daughters. Does Khorne hate himself because he's made out of magic? That is a very fair way to interpret that relationship, yes. But Chaos Gods are contradictory. They're not supposed to make sense. Like, there are characters that have impressed Khorne. Like, Khorne's like, oh, I like this one. But it's when characters lose themselves to violence. Like, they become so angry, so pissed, that they lose themselves and commit, like, just atrocities. Is there a lore reason why Khorne did not make Valkyria a demon? There's not a stated one. My suspicion is that in order to become a demon, you functionally become part of that god. You cease being a true individual. Instead, you become like kind of a fragment or a piece of the god themselves, and you are forever bound to them. I think for Khorne, I think there is something about how he views Valkyria where he very deliberately wants her to be separate. He wants her to not be a piece of him, but instead a mortal forever serving him. Why didn't Khorne fight harder for Krell's soul? Khorne fought very hard for Krell's soul. The problem was Nagash hit bigger. When it comes to who has control over this dead guy in the middle of the mountains, Nagash won. Which, let that be a lesson to you of how fucking scary Nagash is. And you also have to remember, while Khorne was very likely fighting very hard for Krell's soul, I would suspect the other three, so Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, were probably trying to help Nagash because they thought it would probably be funny. Have I read the Grombrindle novel? No, sadly not. My copy hasn't arrived yet because I'm getting it from a person instead of like a regular store, and it hasn't arrived, sadly. Norska should get shield maidens and Valkyrie heroes. That'd be cool. I'd be down for that. Why don't I want Tarmacon? It's not that I don't want Tarmacon. It's that I don't want Tarmacon yet. I would say that my thing with Tarmacon is that I would very much like this set of DLCs to all be about the lesser demon characters, because I really want the lesser demon characters because I like them a lot. So like I want like the Changeling, who's functionally a lesser demon. I want the blue horror, or the blue scribes. I want Epidemius. I want Skull Taker, and I want the Mask. That's it. I would be thrilled to get Tarmacon after that. Yeah. The Glotkin has not been data mined already. I've not heard anything about that. You know, Epidemius gets called boring too often. Well, those people just don't appreciate Epidemius enough. Do we know how the old ones looked? No. No. There are all sorts of different rumors and recordings of what they might have looked like. They're not frogs. No, they're not frogs. In 40K, the old ones seem to literally just be the Slann because they're frogs. Which, you know, that's what the Slann are. In fantasy, however, the old ones seem much more to be... I'm going to be doing a video on them in the very near future. In fantasy, the old ones seem to be much more of a collection of very bizarre creatures. Maybe Sotek is an old one, but a newborn? Doubtful. Very, very doubtful. Sotek doesn't want Tarmacon because he doesn't want Elspeth. I mean, I'm fine with it. If Thrones of Decay comes out and they're like, look, it's Tarmacon versus Elspeth, I will be excited. I will be very excited. Who or what is a Tarmacon? Tarmacon the Maggot Lord is a really big, bad, scary general of Nurgle who was the start of a quadrilogy of books called the Throne of Chaos series. That was supposed to be about Tarmacon and his three brothers. However, the series was discontinued after the first book because the end times happened. So we never got to find out who Tarmacon's brothers were, but each Chaos God was supposed to get one brother. And each of them came with a bunch of brand new units, a bunch of brand new models, some really cool rules, and a bunch of other stuff. So Tarmacon had a really, really, really beautiful, gigantic book created that's almost completely about him and his army. But it also had like a bunch of cool stuff for like the Empire, Chaos Dwarfs, and a bunch of other stuff. How would I handle his most unique / OP abilities in Total War? The big thing I would do for Tarmacon is I would allow people to choose which form of his they want him to run in, whether they want him to be in his Chaos Lord form or his Ogre Warlord form. And like the different forms come with different bonuses. So like if you run him in Ogre form, he has a lot more health, he hits a lot harder, and stuff like that. But maybe he has like significantly lower melee attack and melee defense. He has less armor. You know, he's a bigger target, so he's easier to hit, stuff like that. And then there's like there's the Kurgan Warlord form where he is, you know, he's smaller, he doesn't have as much health, but his melee attack and melee defense and his armor are substantially higher, and like, you know, have pros and cons. And you know, if you run him in the more human form, then he counts as a small target. If you run him in the ogre form, he counts as a large target, so you can kind of put that into your calculations. And then of course, you know, you got Bubelos, the Toad Dragon, have fun with that. But probably the big thing I would do is that for his like true form, his maggot form, the big thing I would probably do is that if you kill Tarmacon in battle, I would probably give him an ability that if he's killed in battle, he has like a passive ability that goes off where if there is an enemy character within like 30 meters of him, and they don't get out of there in like 5 seconds, then he deals like a shitload of damage to them and resurrects. So like he deals like 50% of their health and damage and he gets back up. But he can only do that once per battle. That could be fun. Sarunk, China has a lot of subculture. If they put a bit of effort to do subculture for Cathay, that will make it really feel like a massive empire. Yeah, I agree. 100%. 100%. Yeah, each of the provinces, at the very least, should be substantially different from one another. I really, 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 really hope that Cubicle 7 for the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay series eventually goes to Grand Cathay and gives us a big Cathay book. That could be a lot of fun, because then they could really expand on a lot of that. Do I think if every faction were to fight against Chaos, it would be possible to win? Oh yeah! If everybody, like, gangbang Chaos, Chaos would get the shit kicked out of it. Chaos very, very much relies on all of the other factions not teaming up against them. I really want Arball. Am I going to crush your dreams? No, I think Arball the Undefeated is very likely to be in Total War Warhammer 3. I think that's extremely likely. Are there any chances for Total War Age of Sigmar? Yes, 100% in like 10 years. Did the old ones know about the gods who survived, like Ashurian? That's a complicated question. That's a very complicated question. That would be a great question to explore with Andy Law, but I would argue no, because I do not believe the lore that Lilith says about that her and the gods came from another dimension that died and they like snuck into this one, and like they're the progenitors of it. I do not believe that's true. I believe that's what the elven gods have convinced themselves is true, but I believe the elven gods are like all of the other gods. I do not think that they are entities from another dimension in that sense. I think they are true gods, but I believe that they kind of got high on their own fumes in a sense, and that what the elves believe in them, I think the elves are so arrogant that the elves cannot accept that the old ones created them. The elves refuse to acknowledge that the old ones who created the dwarfs and the humans and the lizardmen and all these other races were also their progenitors. So the elves created, intentionally or not, have convinced themselves that they are unique and that their gods were special and that their gods existed before the old ones and that their gods actually fought the chaos gods at the dawn of time. And it was them that actually pushed the chaos gods out, and like forced all the gods to leave the mortal realms and stuff like that. If you go watch Lorehammer, which I'm actually going to take a brief moment. Excuse me. I'm going to take a brief moment to do some plugging. If you have not if you have not already, for the love of God, for the love of all that is good and holy on this earth, please, 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 go to this YouTube channel. Go to this YouTube channel. Go to the Lorehammer YouTube channel and subscribe. Go to the Lorehammer YouTube channel and subscribe. And start watching The Enemy Within. I cannot, it is, for lore reasons, it is incredible. It is incredible. It is amazing to watch. There are currently 24 episodes. There's a playlist that's called The Enemy Within, complete, all episodes plus bonus tales. Just watch that. What is it about? It is about The Enemy Within, which is the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay storyline. But basically, it is about Andy Law's interpretation of what's going on in the Warhammer Fantasy world. So it takes place starting off in Midland, and basically you are going to be brought along a journey where you are going to see it's kind of like Critical Role. It's a lot like Critical Role. And basically it is a group of adventurers trying to unravel a big political scheme and mystery and ritual and a whole bunch of other shit that is going on in the Warhammer Fantasy world. But he explains the lore incredibly well, better than I do in a lot of ways. But it's basically Critical Role in Warhammer Fantasy. Please, for the love of God, subscribe to his channel and start watching them. And leave comments, like them, all that stuff. They are criminally underwatched. I watch them literally every week. And he has been exploring some amazing lore bits. He's been fleshing out a lot of lore about the elves. He's been fleshing out a lot of lore about Nippon and a bunch of other stuff. And it's fucking incredible. Cannot recommend it enough. If you have any faith in me as a Warhammer lore person, then please trust me when I say that watching Lorehammer will be an amazing experience for you. Is that the only thing he does? No, he does a lot of other stuff, but that's kind of the big thing. He also he does a lot of streams where he builds maps. So he shows you how to build a map for any roleplay game, but especially for the Warhammer Fantasy world. He also does a lot of Q&A streams where he just randomly answers questions. Houndaville Omens, thanks so much for the, wow, very generous super chat. Thank you so much. Do I think at some point they'll improve the caravan system? Yes, 100%. Yes, I do. So that if you trade different resources for different things as opposed to just money, and if so, what resources do you think they would be? I don't know resource-wise what they would want to do. I think it could be a lot of fun if maybe they offered you bonus types of funds based on the resources that you have access to kind of represent you using the natural resources in your empire to trade for further money or influence with the people you're trading with. But the big thing for me is I want the Chaos Dwarf system. I want the ability to grab actual new units from the factions I'm trading with, because that is so fucking badass. If I trade with the Empire, give me a steam tank or a unit of demigriffs. If I trade with Coron, give me a unit of questing knights or a unit of hippogriff riders. I also think they need to add more locations because the Cathayan trade road doesn't actually go along the entire trade route, which is really weird. It's supposed to go all the way to Talea and Coron. So it's supposed to go into Bretonia and then Tilia and Astalia, and it doesn't, which is really weird. So hopefully they'll fix that. I also think they should add a Border Prince location. So just more locations, and also give me the ability to get units like the Chaos Dwarfs do. Could Azur be how the Cathayans refer to Ulgu? No, that's a mistake in the short story. Because Azur is literally the other name for the Wind of Heavens. It's the Azur Wind. So that's just a mistake on David Geimer's part. Which happens. That happens. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I think everyone's sleeping on the shadows of change here. That word's there for a reason, and it's because Igrim is the shadowiest change boy. I mean, I would argue that the Changeling is more shadowy than Igrim is, because the Changeling can literally be hiding anywhere and everywhere at any time because he could turn into anything and anyone, and he's way sneakier than Egrim is. Who would win? To the Tomb Kings before death versus Cathay? Ooh. I don't know. I feel like in an all-out war, Cathay would win. Well, okay, if it was Nehekara at its height, like if it was Nehekara at its absolute height when like Cetra the Imperishable was still alive, there is a very real chance that Cetra would win. Unless the Celestial Dragon Emperor got involved. If the Celestial Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress actually got involved, which at that time they were active, then Nehekara would lose. But it would be a brutal... Because a lot of people do not realize how fucking big Nehekara was under Cetra's rule. Because under Cetra's rule, Nehekara was the entirety of the Southlands except for the jungle. So like, anything and everything north of the jungle, the entirety of the Badlands, all the way to the World's Edge Mountains, the entirety of what we now know as the Border Princes, a significant amount of what we know as Talea, and up through Blackfire Pass into the Empire, and all of those mountains. Like the Gray Mountains and the Black Mountains. Those were all, and the Vaults, those were all under Cetra's control. Like, he was that fucking ridiculous. Why didn't Cetra cross the World's Edge Mountains? Because he was busy going the other way, and crossing the World's Edge Mountains is insane. Like, yeah, he basically controlled 2 entire continents. Like, his empire was the largest empire of men to ever exist. And the only reason it stopped is because Cetra died of old age. Like, nobody could kill him. He was unstoppable. Literally, the only thing Cetra could not defeat was death. And his empire very rapidly, well, not super rapidly, because he was dead for, he was dead for quite some time. But his empire progressively shrunk after his death. Well, the Badlands were significantly more useful than they are nowadays. You have to remember the entire kingdom of Strigos. Strigos was a very affluent kingdom. It was a mighty kingdom, and it was completely based in the Badlands. Badlands has plenty of awesome resources, especially back in those days, before it got like really fucked up by a lot of undead problems. Aren't they stronger now with all the constructs? No, because they still had all those constructs. The constructs are not new. Those were around when they were alive as well. Yuan Bo accounting simulator win? Yeah, that's the real game I need. Is there any updates on Total War Battles, Warhammer app game? No, I have no idea what that's about. If Lilith lied about the gods, then who made the Obernon stone? That's a great question. I don't know. Oh, well, the Obernon stone was made by the, that was made by the Belthani. Yeah. Yeah, the Obernon stone is very interesting. Kabanda. Get out! Get out! I don't even want... take your money back. Get the fuck out. Get out of here, Kabanda. I don't want your filthy blood money. Thank you for the tip, super chat. While I will admit my implementation in fantasy sucked, I think there's nothing inherent in my character that doesn't work in fantasy. Blood. I think it is completely viable and fine for anyone to name an exalted greater demon or a greater demon of Khorne in their army, Kabanda. Do I think he should be a legendary lord? No. We have plenty of other awesome Khornite characters that we should do instead. Plus, we all know that Total War 40k is going to happen. It's not a mystery, guys. Total War Warhammer 40,000 is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Did Cetra kill Kolek Suneater? No. That is not canonically. What is Kabanda? I'm not doing that rant again. Which Warhammer character has the saddest story, in my opinion? The saddest? That's hard. Probably either Durthu or Festus the Leech Lord. I'd probably say one of those two. Arenthiol. Hey Sotek, do you think it's possible even with the Cathay dragons trying to avoid being worshipped that they might have become minor gods due to how revered they have been for millennia by Cathayans? Yes, that is absolutely possible. And I think despite the fact that the dragons very explicitly do not want to be worshipped, I think they are worshipped. Maybe in not the most obvious of ways. But, you know, they are very highly revered and looked up to. And I think they benefit from many of the aspects of worship that other gods do, though they would probably refuse to admit it. That being said, it does not seem, you know, obviously to them it's not as important because they are living entities who are active and part of the world. You know, they're not creatures contained within, they are not entities contained within the ether. They are flesh and blood. So it has a much more complicated dynamic. St. Augustine, thank you for the super chat. You had a lore question, but YouTube got me. Well, what's your lore question? Enjoy the money? Well, you could ask. Chat's not moving that fast. Who do I think is more powerful? Cathay or the Empire, both at their fullest potential? Honestly, as crazy as it may sound, I do believe the Empire would be the mightiest at full power. I think the only way that Cathay would be able to overwhelm the Empire, if both of them like fully united, got all their shit together, and everyone was on the same team. If the Celestial Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress got involved, I think the Empire would lose. I think without the two of them, the Empire would win, but it would be obscene. Is there a Yang equivalent of the Onyx Chromin? We don't know. Maybe. Possibly. But if so, I have no idea what it could be. It would be some kind of creature. Who would win? Cathay versus the Lizardmen? Nowadays, probably Cathay. But once again, brutal. What faction in the entire Warhammer Fantasy is the most kind? I don't know. To be honest. I mean, they all have their issues. I mean, as far as like... I don't know. As weird as stupid as it sounds, I promise this isn't me trying to like avoid the question. It would depend on how you define kindness. Like, if you mean like caring about life, like caring about trying to alleviate suffering and reduce suffering as much as possible and make life good for everyone, it would probably be like the High Elves? Maybe the Wood Elves? No, the Halflings. yeah, the Halflings. I don't know. That's a hard one. Because a lot of them don't have the luxury to ever be able to do that. Let's see. Aranthiel, what are you asking, like, what are you asking specifically about Sigmar? I'm not sure how to answer that. Could the new female advisor be Shinzu? She could be. I don't know. The new advisor doesn't seem like an actual character. It seems like it's just the narrator. If you had the opportunity, would I interview Skarsnik? No. No. Because Skarsnik's Black Library book is literally an interview with Skarsnik. And if you've read that book, you know what happens to the writer. And it's not good. Yeah, no. Skarsnik may be fairly reasonable, but he's still a fucking night goblin. Do I think the Cathay dragons would be in a similar state to Sigmar before he died divinity-wise? Yes. Yes, I think that would be a very fair potential way to look at it. I think that the Cathayan dragons hold a massive amount of reverence. And if they were to suddenly vanish, I do believe that the people would turn to worship, because there would be those among them who would be like, we must worship the dragons because the reason they left us is they ascended to godhood, you know, etc., etc. So yes, I think that would be a very fair idea. Now that we Cathay have Cathay, does Grimgor feel strong enough that he could destroy Cathay? Yes. I know, as stupid as it sounds, could Grimgor Ironhide still destroy Cathay? Abso-fucking-lutely, because he's Grimgor. Grimgor Ironhide is insane. He could absolutely destroy Cathay with a big enough wall behind him. Do we know the power ranking of the dragon siblings? As in, out of the 5 living, who is the strongest and weakest? We don't for sure, but if I would guess that they are powerful, they are better at different things. I don't think one of them is necessarily supremely more powerful than the others. But you're probably looking at, I would guess that in truth, Yuan Bo is the strongest. Miao Ying is the second strongest. Zhao Ming is probably the 4th strongest. Maybe the 3rd strongest. Followed by Li Dao, followed by Yin Yin. I think Yin Yin is probably the weakest. Yin Yin... I would say Yin Yin or Zhao Ming actually is probably the weakest. Li Dao feels like he's pretty mid. Because Li Dao literally fights the most. Li Dao fights endlessly. Are there any theories about who is the wife of the Dragon Emperor? Well, we know his wife. The wife of the Dragon Emperor is Kuei Yin, and Kuei Yin is she is the Moon Empress. And what we know about her is that she is able to turn into a dragon, but she is not a traditional dragon in truth. Kuei Yin actually originates from the moon. She is a daughter of Manslib, the true moon. And according to what I would suggest is very accurate myth, she is the daughter of some grand civilization that lived or lives on the moon. And in the very early stages of the world, she came down from the moon and assumed the form of a dragon and a woman. And ended up being drawn to the Celestial Dragon Emperor and marrying him as an equal. But she is not of this earth. She's a daughter of Manslib. Also known as Yue Wei in Cathay. The Moon Empress and Moonclaw are related. Not really, like in like concept, but Moonclaw is the son of Morslib, which is the Chaos Moon. Do I think there's Moon Men? So if you look at a lot of Asian mythology, particularly Chinese and Japanese mythology, there's a very, very consistent through line that there is a sort of celestial divine court that lives on the moon. And that there is a lunar court. like a movie that came out, Kubo and the whatever strings. Amazing animated movie. But like it's explored in that, but there's a lot of super fucking famous myths from Chinese and Japanese mythology and history about divine beings. Kubo and the Three Strings, thank you. Divine beings that live on the moon. So that is heavily inspiring the Moon Empress and her tale, her story. So I would highly suspect that there is some sort of divine court of entities on the moon, or at least there was. They might have died. Do I think the Crow Man could give you a hug? Absolutely. Didn't you see those creepy hands that he has on the end of his wings? He could totally give you a hug. Kabanda, are you from the moon? Well, you killed a bunch of Tyranids on the moon and like made some kind of goofy ass arts and crafts project out of them during the end of the 8th edition or 9th edition event. So sure, you could be from the moon since you saved the Blood Angels, which makes no fucking sense. Boo on you, Kabanda. Even in 40k, you're lame. How could you save the Blood Angels? You should have let them die. Tisk. Literally the only Cornate that supports the Emperor. Yuan Bo killed by a Bretonnian knight still a thing? Where the fuck did you get that from? How do the Cathayan dragons compare to an Emperor dragon? They're pretty heavily on par. They are giant fuck you dragons that can cast powerful sorceries. They're pretty close to Emperor dragon class. Is Gorbad dead? We don't know. It's likely he's dead, but there's no official confirmation. Old lore? Source me. At me on Discord with a link. The Guardians of the Forest novel? Wait, do they call Yuan Bo by name? Which legendary hero is my favorite right now? Either Lord Croak or Ulrika. Ooh, no, maybe Ariel. I'd probably go with Ulrika. Closely followed by Ariel, followed by Lord Croak. What if Gorbad is really just Gorfang and Gorfang is really just Gordrak and Gordrak is really just Grimgor and Grimgor is really Gork? Yeah, it makes sense. Not specific Yuan Bo, just a Jade Dragon from Cathay. Oh, well, I mean, I would say that is not canonical. It could just be that it's a Jade Dragon. Why doesn't Ulrika not have vampire spells? Because she's in an army of living units, and the vampire spells are kind of ass in a living army. So they decided to lean into one of the other lores. How did mortals become gods in Age of Sigmar? Can anyone become a god in Age of Sigmar? Oh, God. Okay. The first part of that question is much easier to answer than the second part of that question. How did the gods become the gods in Age of Sigmar? Okay, so when the Warhammer Fantasy Planet was destroyed, there were a number of individuals who had the entirety of a wind of magic contained in part of their essence. So like Nagash was fully part and a piece of the wind of death, and Alariel was fully combined with the wind of life, etc., etc. So when the world was destroyed and most of them died, their essence continued to sort of survive within the wind. And the idea behind Age of Sigmar is that each of the main realms in Age of Sigmar is just that wind of magic, and that wind of magic alone gathered across the cosmos, and massive amounts of it slowly but surely began to be drawn together like a celestial body, and it compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed until kaboom! And a plane was formed out of it, and it became the realms. So like the realm of Akshi is the Wind of Fire, right? Actually, is the Wind of Fire, the lore of fire. Was all this fire magic and everything associated with the lore of fire bound together to create a plane of reality. But within the lore of fire was contained the essence of Grimnir, thanks to the Wind of Fire having been bound to Grimnir through Ungrim during the end times. So Ungrim was functionally resurrected by the Wind of Fire. Same thing for death. When the realm of death coalesced into being, part of its coalescence was the return of Nagash. But all of them, many of them were either sealed away or were slumbering until Sigmar found them and woke them up. Not all of them. Some of them woke up instantly. So the gods of Age of Sigmar, for the most part, are the incarnates from Warhammer Fantasy: The End Times. So they are the individuals who wielded those lores of magic. Now, there are some individuals in Age of Sigmar who were gods in the Warhammer Fantasy world and have remained gods in Age of Sigmar. So those guys still get to be gods. And then finally, can you become a god? Yes. We actually had a huge storyline about that going into 3rd edition, which is that at the end of 2nd edition, Morathi, the same Morathi you know from Warhammer Fantasy, she was not a god. She was very powerful, but she was not a god. And so Morathi pulled off this really elaborate, gigantic fuck you scheme. And at the end of this gigantic fuck you scheme, she manages to turn herself into a god. And she becomes Morathi Kane, who is a goddess. Oh, hold on. I need to check something while I'm chatting with y'all. Oh! One second. Excuse me. So yes, people can become gods. It's rare, but it definitely happens. Oh my god, I need to sort through my emails. My emails have really gotten away from me recently. Fuck. Alright, whatever. I'll deal with that later. Is the thing with Grimmy still happening? Yes. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule it because that day her internet literally exploded. Also, just a random note while my mind is on it. This Thursday, right? This Thursday, August the 3rd at 10 a.m., I believe? 10 a.m. CST. I'm going to be starting my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 over on the Twitch channel. I'm going to be streaming Baldur's Gate 3 on Twitch. I'm going to be doing a full playthrough. So if you want to hang out with me while I do that, pew pew. www.twitch.tv/Loremaster of Sotek. Should be fun. Are the Greenskins aliens? Technically, yes. Is Omdra the Dread an Emperor-class dragon? Yes, absolutely. 100%. Any ideas on Kislev now? What do you mean by ideas? I don't know if I want to trust your scheduling. That's fair. That is completely fair. I do not yeah, I do not begrudge that comment. That is a based take, as they say. And Kragnos, who wad so hard he became a god. Yes, Kragnos is also a self-made god. That is true. Kragnos, the earthquake god, who's awesome. I actually really like Kragnos. How did Tyrion come back in Age of Sigmar? Because Tyrion was heavily infused by the Wind of Light. Oh, no. So Flavio, I like that name. Flavio Tobler. So I don't know if you finished the End Times, but Tyrion dies in part 3 of the End Times, and then he's resurrected in part 5 of the End Times by Teclis. Teclis takes Tyrion's corpse and he infuses it, he puts it into the Oak of Ages, and he infuses it with the divine essence of Ulrich, the Empire God, which completely fucked over the city of Middenheim, by the way, and also infuses him with the Wind of Light itself. And it resurrects him as Tyrion, the incarnate of light. Has Tyrion rescued his daughter yet? Ha ha ha! Did Ulrich, Urson, and Myrmidia survive the End Times? No, they all died. At least as far as we know. Ulrich and Urson definitely died. Myrmidia, I'm pretty sure died. Was Caldor Drago from 40k in the End Times? Maybe? I'm not really sure who that character is. I need to reread it at some point. Because, like, it seems like a Space Marine, but now that we know what Stormcast Eternals are, it might be a Stormcast. I have to go back and read it. Prediction on the Kislev Lord. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Mother Ostankia. Because who else is it going to be? Especially with Shadows of Change and how, like, ominous that is. Like, come on. Give me the hag! I need the hag! What instances are there we know of horizontal game transfers? Oh, horizontal gene transfers. I'm guessing the old ones and the Naga of Caress have been behind some, but any other cases? Face Octopus, could you reword that in a way? Because I'm too stupid to necessarily suss out what you're asking me. Writers confirmed it was a Space Marine? Well, there you go. Another stupid god fucking damn bullshit thing. We can just, like, we can acknowledge the End Times happened and, like, kind of the overall story beats, but all of the, like, little specific stuff we should probably ignore in the vast majority of cases. One of these days, I'm going to do a rewrite myself, and I'm going to fix it. Why hasn't a Star Dragon turned into an Emperor Dragon in the lore? I mean, they could, but you have to remember that all of the biggest dragons of Ulthuan are asleep. If you were to go into the depths of the Caledonian Mountains around Val's Anvil, and you went into the deepest, darkest depths and caverns, you could find Emperor-class High Elf dragons, like Star Dragons. But they're asleep. Could be Gardas lost in the garden. I'm pretty sure it's Caldor Drago, because if I recall correctly, I believe the last time we see him in the End Times, the Garden of Nurgle scene, is literally as, like, everybody's leaving Nurgle's garden, they see Caldor, like, impaled on, like, 6 Nurgle halberds just in the air, like he's been staked out like a hot dog over a fire. And they're like, how's he still alive? And their guide is like, he'll be fine. We should go. Does every dragon have the ability to turn into humans? No. That is a very, very, very unique ability to the Cathayan dragons. Only the Cathayan dragons are able to do that we know of. And they were taught to do that by their mother and father. Does Emmerich survive the End Times? No. No, sadly he does not. Though we do not get to see his death scene. The last time we see Emmerich is he's fighting against Khorne's legions in Athel Loren near the very, very end, and then we never see him again. So presumably he died there. In the end times, do the Skaven find a telephone? They find a galactic telephone and they prank call the Eldar, yes. Because once again, the writers of the end times did not give a fuck. Sorry, the writers of the last 3 to 4 books of the end times did not give a fuck. The first book was good. I will say the first book was good. The other 4 progressively got more trashy. Regarding the Onyx Crowmen, would I say they are similar to demons based on their description? They are similar to demons in that they are magical creatures, but that's as far as that goes. They are manifestations of magic. But that's the only relation. Was Karl Franz ever saved by a Lamian vampire? Yes! Karl Franz was saved by Genevieve, who is a Lamian. How do you imagine the appearance of the Tarmacon brothers? I don't know, but I would like them to be kind of insane looking, and they should all ride on a brand new big giant monster. How sentient is the Oak of Ages? It's not. It's more like an elemental force. Think less nature god, think more force of nature. Andal Riga? Yeah, there you go. Hype for the Winds of Magic talk tomorrow? Yep, it's gonna be hot. Can vampires have children? No. Their biological functions do not work. They can have sex, but they cannot procreate. Could Warhammer Fantasy work in a game like Elden Ring? Yes, absolutely. Who would win, Oxyotl or Stitch? Oxyotl. My money's on Oxyotl 1000%. Oxyotl is like fucking Rambo. He's unstoppable. Karl Franz is a princess in distress confirmed. You're not wrong. a lot of Karl Franz's stories are about him being a princess in distress. I'm not gonna lie. The Enemy Within, the entirety of the Enemy Within plot is basically Karl Franz is a damsel in distress. Like, to make it very basic. And a lot of his personal stories are about him being a damsel in distress. Getting saved by other people. Oxyotl versus the Changeling, who wins? Oxyotl. I told you, he's rainbow. Are there any giant snakes that fight with the lizardmen excluding the quaddles? Yeah, there are worshipped, or like avatars of Sotek that exist that are like literally titanic colossal snakes that the lizardmen are able to vaguely control. Yeah. Have I read Tolkien's books recently? No. I've actually never read any of Tolkien's. Well, that's not true. I've read The Hobbit many times. I've never read The Lord of the Rings or The Silmarillion or The Unheard Tales or whatever the fuck they're called. Because I appreciate Tolkien. I do not like his writing style. Unfinished Tales, thank you. Heresy? It's not heresy. I don't have to like everything. So are the vampires corpses that don't rot due to magic? Or is it more that they can't... No, they're dead. Vampires are undead. They're fucking dead. Their hearts do not beat. Their lungs require no air. Or, well, don't need air. Like, if they choose to breathe, it's because they're choosing to breathe, not because they need to breathe. But no, vampires are dead. They are moving corpses. And they're able to use Dar, or dark magic, and blood to basically keep themselves in good shape. But a lot of the concept you'll see with vampires is that they have like a true form or like a battle form where like they drop all the pretenses and they look like fucking horrific, right? Which is like what Vlad looks like, right? Vlad von Karstein in Total War Warhammer, he doesn't have a nose, like he's missing bits of flesh, like he looks like a corpse. That's what he actually looks like. But a lot of the time he doesn't have to look like that. Vlad is like incredibly handsome most of the time. He only looks like that when he's like, all right, I'm not fucking around. Like, I'm gonna focus my magic on other things. What happened to Tehenwin? We don't know. The last time Tehenwin is seen is after his army is defeated by Skrolk and Vermalinx, the Corruptor, in one of the battles for Lustria. But the last time we see Tehenwin is he joins the fighting as the vast legion of Hexwaddle led by Krokar and Mazdamundi clashes with Lord Skrolk and Vermalinx. And they have this big epic battle that Tehenwin also participates in. And then we don't see what happens to him. But a lot of Lustria and a lot of its sacred sites are turned into like spaceships and are like sent off into space by the Slann and stuff, which goes on to form the Seraphon. So it is very, very, very possible that Tehenwin is somewhere. Likely he is in stasis somewhere, or maybe he's wandering around enacting the will of Sotek. Who knows? Interesting fact about Yuan Bo. I mean, based on the short story, the fact that he is the Emperor's executioner is a huge deal. Because it means that he is not only the Grand Administrator and the Paperboy, but he is also the enforcer of the law. So, like, if people are breaking the law, he's the one that comes to execute them, which is pretty insane. It means he's a lot scarier than he was first portrayed as in the earlier lore that we have. If Yuan Bo asked you on a date, would you go? Yes. Do you see how styling that man is? Listen, I'm not gay, but like, if a man like that finely dressed and everything was like, you want to go on a date? I have to see where it goes, okay? I have to see where this goes. Are me and Andy Law planning on talking about the book? What book? Was Miao Yang afraid of him in the end? I don't think she was so much afraid of him as she was... I think she was carefully... I think she was contrite. I do not believe that she was afraid. Would I put out on the date? I don't know. Probably not. Like, I'm mostly straight, so probably not. Yuan Bo's a little masculine for my taste. And I mean, okay. If he was like, I'll let you try on my armor, you know, there could be negotiations. You know, it's kind of like the whole, like, $20 is $20 discussion. You know what I mean? Do I think we'll see a Chaos Dragon Child? No. I believe that they will... I don't know if they'll ever confirm the 9th Dragon Child. I think they might leave that as an open door / like unrevealed secret and allow people to just speculate on what that is. Do I think the Lizardman will get another DLC? I think there's a very high chance of that, yes. Flamefang? Yes, I think Flamefang is the 9th Dragon Child, but I don't know they'll ever confirm that. I wonder if we'll see everyone make space for Yin Yin. Well, so Yin Yin is with Y's, not J's, and there's also no dash. It's just Yin space Yin, if I recall correctly. But yeah, her invading... I could actually see Yin Yin in the Southlands instead of Lustria. Because the Southlands are kind of like her showdown space. But I don't know, maybe. Like, there is space for her. Maybe around, like, some of those islands. I would want her to be like a naval campaign. Put her out in the ocean somewhere. Like, way out in the ocean. I don't need her in Lustria. Just put her out in the ocean. Of the Lizardmen, who is the most open to diplomacy? Of the Lizardmen characters, the most open to diplomacy would be... it'd be Teto Echo. Teto Echo or Tic Tac Toe. They would be it would be a skink. Tehenwin is Tehenwin is a zealot. So, like, debatably you could talk to him, but, like, you talk fast. The Slann, Mazdamundi would not be fun to talk to, and the Saurus would be impossible to talk to. You cannot diplomacy with Saurus. Without, like, it's very hard. But I would say Teto Echo. Like, Teto Echo is a 100-year-old skink. He's like a astromancer. He's able to see the future and a bunch of stuff like that. And he's very considerate. And he's very, like, he's very wizened. He would probably be very easy to talk with. Why did I name my channel after Sotek? Because I have a massive man boner for Sotek. Sotek is my favorite god, and Tehinoan was like my favorite thing growing up. The Lizardmen are my favorite faction, but like the more, starting broadly from I like dinosaurs and I like dragons, and then you slowly narrow in more and more and more and more and more towards Sotek, that's where I end up. As a Tolkien fan, I'm not a fan of his villains. Yeah, no. I love Tolkien. Like, I love the movies, and sorry, I haven't read the books, but you need to understand that I have watched a metric fuck ton of story analysis, character analysis, writing analysis on Tolkien's novels. I've watched so much from like Hello Future Me, and like a bunch of the Tolkien specific channels, because I'm subscribed to all of them. And I like to watch like their what if videos, their background videos, their lore videos. So like I know a fuck ton about Tolkien lore. I just haven't read his books because I don't like his writing. That being said, with the exception of Sauron, I tend to find Tolkien's villains are pretty weak. But I think that has more to do with Tolkien's obsession with good always wins, which is fine, and that's great. I just find it to be kind of boring. Do I think we'll ever encounter Shenzhou? More than you already have? No. I should rename your channel to Loremaster of Khorne. Khorne would never have a Loremaster. That would be an oxymoron. Diplomacy with Oxiodal since he's a skink? Diplomacy with Oxiodal would just be him spying on you and deciding whether or not to kill you. And if he doesn't, you're friends. You thought Morgoth was a pretty good villain? Yeah, Morgoth is pretty decent, but I feel like he gets his ass kicked way too easily. Like, considering how big and bad he's supposed to be, he seems like he gets whooped hilariously often. Do I like the Chronicles of Narnia? Yeah, my absolute favorite is The Witch, the Wardrobe, and the Audacity of This Bitch. Great book. Amazing. No, I enjoyed the Chronicles of Narnia. I mostly know it through the movies. Growing up, my sister had some of the books, and I read like one of them way back in the day. I loved the films. A little heavy on the Christian, the Jesus lion, but yeah. Who would win, Sotek or Sauron? Probably Sauron's. Wait, do you mean Sotek the god? I assume you don't mean me. If we're talking about the god Sotek, I mean, I think Sotek would win. I'm not really sure how Sauron would deal with the whole getting eaten thing. Considering like Sotek's whole MO is devouring other gods so that he can crush them in his coils and devour them for the next 1,000 years. Probably not something that Sauron would be super down for, I'm gonna be honest. By book, I meant Yuan Bo's short story. Oh, are we gonna discuss it tomorrow? Only very slightly. I would like to do a Lorebeards episode where me and Andy just talk about Cathay lore, like the new lore. But to do that, I have to like get Andy all of the reading material, which means I need to get him all of the loading screen lore that is pertinent to, because I've like memorized a lot of it, but I don't have it. I need to find out, I need to ask the modders for help, because I need to be able to access all of the loading screens for Total War Warhammer 3, because that's where all the new lore is. And I have to get it so that I can give it to Andy so he can read it so we can talk about it. So if anyone knows how to do that, please hit me up. Thoughts on Aragon? Dude, I loved Aragon growing up. In middle school, I don't remember when the first one came out, but I remember buying the books in middle school. And I loved the Aragon series. That movie was the most brutal backstab to my childhood I have ever felt from a cinematic piece. I hated I hated the Aragon movie more than I hated the Last Airbender movie. And that Last Airbender movie was pretty shit. But at least the Last Airbender was relatively close to the story. The Aragon movie was fucking awful. They killed, what were the bird guys called? The Razark? They killed them in the first movie. Like, what the fuck? Those were supposed to be villains that lasted until the last book, and they killed them in the first fucking movie. Yeah, the Urgles were just guys. They weren't, like, proper monster people. Oh my god. Galadriel versus Slaanesh. I do not think any of the characters in Lord of the Rings could defeat a Chaos God. I think the Chaos Gods would absolutely body the shit out of any Lord of the Rings character. Because the Chaos Gods are, like, insane. They are gods with a capital G. Who's going to write the lore of Koresh? And I have no idea. If Koresh gets made, which I hope it does, the Naga of Koresh would, if they get made, they will be written by a team of writers and hopefully, what do you call them? Advisors from appropriate regions in the world with appropriate knowledge of said regions in the world, in correspondence with Andy Hall and his team at Creative Assembly. So it would be a collaborative effort between Games Workshop, Andy Hall and his team, hopefully with advisors from relevant places and relevant, sources to work together to create something. Which is, yes, cultural consultants, thank you. Which is what they did with Cathay. That's how they made Cathay. Just straight up buy the fan project on Koresh, they would never do that because then they'd have to pay them. And I don't know if y'all realize how cheap Games Workshop is. Did y'all see there was a recent post that showed the earnings for Games Workshop employees, and it's fucking embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Like, their highest paid employees, that, like, out in, like, all the stores and stuff, is, like, less than 40,000 pounds a year, which is, like, fucking disgusting. Considering, like, how rich Games Workshop is and how much money they are raking in right now, it is embarrassing how much they pay their employees. Like, they should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Does Khorne go to wars himself? Yeah, Khorne participates in what's known as the Great Game. So there are constant, like, never-ending wars between the various Chaos Gods. So, like, there's demonic legions of unimaginable numbers constantly fighting each other on the borders of the various Chaos realms, and Khorne himself goes out and participates, which is why he's usually winning, because the other three do not like to go to battle personally. Slaanesh sometimes goes out, but there's, Slaanesh has also lost a number of times. Khorne does not lose. Celestin Prime versus Scarbrand, that's anybody's game. I feel like the Celestin Prime would probably win, but it would be that would be a big showdown. You're awesome? No, you're awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Why does Khorne tolerate Hashid in his realm? I don't believe Hashid is in his realm. Do I like Batman? I fucking love Batman. Who would win? Grom the Paunch without a chariot versus Greasus? Greasus would easily win, because Greasus could literally just eat Grom. Greasus is like a power level above Grom. I don't think a lot of people understand how terrifying Greasus is. Like, he's scary. Like, super fucking scary. Do I like the new Vermintide map? Yeah, it's pretty good. Who rules the Forge of Souls? Nobody in fantasy. It is unclaimed territory. I mean, if you play through the Realm of Chaos storyline in Total War Warhammer 3, Be'lakor takes it over. But it does not have as far as we know, it does the Forge of Souls does not currently have a master. Though it is an entity, like it is aware, so to speak, because it's able to make deals. Where do the gods other than the 4 chaos gods exist? Do they have their own realms? That depends on what you believe, but it is significantly hinted at in the lore. You have to remember that the realm of chaos is infinite. The ether, it is literally a realm of infinity. It goes on for eternity. There are no limits. And it's highly suggested / believed by many that the various gods have their own realms within the ether or the realm of chaos. So like if you were to wander into the realm of chaos, if you wandered far enough, you could theoretically find yourself to like the realm of Mor, or the realm of Manon, or the realm of Sigmar, or whatever. Theoretically. Whether or not that's true, who knows? Who wins, Greasus or Grimgor? Grimgor. We saw that fight actually play out, and Grimgor won, which I think is actually how it would go down. Once again, though, it would be a close affair. Like Grimgor was losing until he actually got a hold of Greasus's Scepter of Titans and used it against him. Now that the Changeling is mostly confirmed rather than Von Horseman, do you think the other Monogod Lords will be demons, and if yes, who? I think it's a very realistic chance they will all be demons, and if they're all demons, I don't think it's a guessing game. It's going to be Epidemius, Skulltaker, and the Mask. If they are not demons, it's probably going to be Tarmacon, Arbal the Undefeated, and Dakala the Denied. Do I think they'll push Vashtor to fantasy? Probably not. They could, but I don't think they're going to. Can End rival Cathay in magic and or military might? We have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what's there. Presumably they can in some fashion. Otherwise, one of them would have conquered the other. So I'm assuming that the Kingdoms of End has a pretty serious military might. I would be surprised if End was as powerful as Cathay in magic, though I bet they have a fair amount of it. But I like if it's going to be a reflection of our world. Doesn't India have a higher population than China, or am I crazy? I can't remember if that's true or not. All I remember is India has like so many people for not a lot of space. Is End like India? Yes, End is heavily inspired by India. It isn't India, but it draws from India. They're very close. Okay, well, there you go. Vashtor wouldn't make sense in fantasy, not enough tech. I'm sorry, have you met Hashit? Have you seen the Skaven? Koresh is Vietnam. I wouldn't say Koresh is Vietnam. I would say Koresh more draws from a large pool of Southeast Asian mythological ideas. Who would win, Oxiodal versus the Monkey King? Probably the Monkey King, considering the Monkey King is apparently strong enough that he can face off against the Dragon Kids. What are my bets on End's new lore, like with Gilgamesh and the 1000 gods? Oh, man, that's a toughie. That's a real toughie. What I'm kind of expecting, personally, I'm expecting the Kingdoms of End to be an inverse of Grand Cathay, and a big reason of why they're fighting and why they don't get along. So, like, if Grand Cathay is the land where there are no gods, where the worship of gods is very heavily discouraged by the Dragon Children because they look down on gods, then I think there's a very realistic chance that the land of End is a land where gods flourish, where there are gods everywhere, and the gods are very active, and the worship of gods is core to their identity and a massive part of their culture. And as such, the gods themselves are like on battlefields, and there's so many of them, but they're not necessarily like super big. So you have all these different gods running around, or things that are worshipped as gods running around. And many of them would have servants. So you'd have all these like crazy, bizarre creatures running around, participating in wars and fights. which would lead to like a really, really interesting showdown. So like you'd have this really interesting disagreement between Grand Cathay and End, where if End is a land that's all about gods, all about god worship and acknowledging the gods, being respectful to the gods. Meanwhile, Cathay's over in their corner like, nah, gods are fucking stupid, fuck gods. That would cause some serious tension and friction between them. Is there anything Galmaraz cannot one-shot? One-shot? Yeah, there are things that have survived a one-shot from Galmaraz. Like, any of the Everchosens could take more than a hit. The first Everchosen, Morcar the Uniter, who actually fought Sigmar, wielding Galmaraz at, like, Sigmar's absolute peak, he took a good number of hits. Is End lore pretty undeveloped? Yeah. Does a bear shit in the woods? Yeah. Yeah, End does have it's you know, Gilgadresh, not Gilgamesh, but we don't know what Gilgadresh is. Like, we don't know if Gilgadresh is simply like a well-known warrior king. Is he a god? We don't know. We know he has a temple that had statues and that Lokir Felhart stole them. That's it. That's all we know. Why don't the Beastmen worship Hashut? Because Hashut is a god of industry. He's a god of civilization and tyranny and fire and ruination. And the Beastmen hate most of that. The Beastmen hate the concept of civilization. The Beastmen purely embody the idea of the untamed wilds, of nature being brutal and violent and the strong devouring the weak, and no civilization, no construction, no building. To engage in the chaos and fury of nature's hierarchy. And anything that would violate that is a perversion to them. If anything, Hashut and the Beastmen would hate each other. Do I think Araby is worth the DLC pack? Yes, I have a video that I've finished writing the script for and I'm going to record very, very soon. It'll be out in the next week or so. And it's, how many pages is it? Let's see, Araby. It's 8 pages. So it should be a pretty decent sized script. Or pretty decent length video. I go over the history of Talea, how I expect Talea would play, what mechanics I would suggest for Talea, who I would suggest their legendary lords are, their legendary heroes, their full roster, and how they would interact with some other factions. So yeah, look forward to that. Do we know all the lands of Warhammer Fantasy? No. There are lands that are rumored to exist in Warhammer Fantasy, but they don't appear on any maps. That does not necessarily mean they don't exist. It just means that we don't know where they are. So, for instance, there is said to be a land called Lumbria, somewhere between the Lost Isles of Elithis and Lustria, but they don't appear. It doesn't appear on any maps. So, is Lumbria real? Maybe. Maybe it's hidden somewhere in the Great Ocean. But, and we also know, like, the Lost Isles of Elithis exist, but we have no fucking idea what's going on at the Lost Isles of Elithis. They're just kind of there. Don't Beastmen use metal weapons? Beastmen take weapons from those they kill. They don't make them themselves. The Beastmen do not have forges. End in Koresh next year? No. Maybe end next year. I think if we're lucky, we will get one new race per year. So I think this year was Chaos Dwarfs. Next year, if we're lucky, will be Kingdoms of End. And then the year after that might be Koresh. I doubt it. It's probably not going to be quite that easy, but I would like that a lot. Did the Lizardmen ever fight with the Empire against Chaos? Not directly from what we know of. The Lizardmen, the Slaawn do provide a significant amount of magical aid to the Empire during a lot of the big fights. A Cathay item mentions Lumbria. That's great. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a real place. And even if it does, we still don't know where it is. Yeah, and there's also the Fishmen, but the Fishmen would live below the ocean. Like, we know the fishmen are real. That's not a myth. They are real. We know they like live in the city of Chepyodal, for instance, off the coast of Lustria. The fishmen have a full-on city there. What about Eru from Lord of the Rings? Can he fight the Chaos Gods? Eru Iluvatar would probably beat the Chaos Gods, because Eru Iluvatar is like Christian God, uppercase G. Like, has no restrictions and seems completely in control of anything and everything. And the only reason that he does not dominate everything is because he just doesn't want to. Like, there's no resisting him. There's no beating him. He just is. Fishmen, could they become a new faction in Warhammer 3? Absolutely. Hell yeah. Have the High Elves or Wood Elves worked with the Lizardmen? Yes. The High Elves have. Quite a few times, actually. Wood Elves, maybe, but I've never heard of a story where they do directly. Didn't the Phoenix King block Galmaraz with a sword from Saffron in the War of Vengeance? So, I don't believe Galmaraz was being wielded by anybody notable then. But even if it was, the Galmaraz that exists now is substantially different from the Galmaraz that the dwarves wielded. If you want to know more about that, check out the episode. Go watch Lorehammer. First of all, I'm going to post some more links. If you haven't already, go watch Lorehammer. Lorehammer is the best place to learn about lots of really cool lore. It's like Critical Role, but for Warhammer Fantasy. Go watch it. Anyway, and make sure you subscribe and tell them Loremaster Sotek sent you. Anyway, but in one of the more recent episodes, I believe it was the Tales of Ubersreich episode for Father Luitpold. They do a lot of exploration on Galmaraz, and Andy Law talks a lot about what has happened to Galmaraz over the millennia, and talks about how the original Galmaraz that Sigmar actually wielded did not look like the Galmaraz we know today. Like, you know, the Galmaraz we know today that a human can very easily wield, and it's all gold, and it has Sigmar iconography on it. That is not what it looked like in Sigmar's day. It looked like a proper dwarven rune hammer back in Sigmar's day. And it didn't have any of the iconography of Sigmar's cult on it, because Sigmar didn't have a cult when he was alive. Which means Galmaraz has evolved. Which should have you going, what? And open a lot of really fun questions, lore-wise, if you think about it for more than like 2 seconds. What's my opinion of people saying Nagash won't work because he's too powerful? That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And you can tell them that that's the dumbest fucking thing Loremaster Sotek has ever heard in his life. No. If you can have Lord Mazdamundi, you can have Nagash. If you can have Orion and Ariel, you can have Nagash. If you can have Scarbrand, Kugoth Plaguefather, Nakari, and Kairos Fate Weaver, you can have Nagash. If you can have Archaon the Everchosen, you can have Nagash. Get the fuck out. Do you want me to save some Cathay lore screenshots for you? I have most of the items saved already, and I've played Cathay a fair bit. I mean, sure, though it'd probably be better for a modder to be able to get into where the screenshots are stored, because that would make it a lot easier and make sure we don't miss anything. Law could be the creative director of DW. Well, Andy Law used to be in charge. He used to be like the top lore guy, the big in charge boy of Cubicle 7, who's writing all the modern Warhammer Fantasy lore, but unfortunately he left. I wish he was still in that position. I deeply, deeply do. I tell you this is how much I love Andy Law and how much faith I have in his lore and his knowledge of the lore, right? I don't agree with Andy on everything. I want to make that clear, because a fair amount of Warhammer Fantasy is interpretation, and there are things that me and Andy don't necessarily agree on, which is great. That's what you want. But I will say that I trust Andy Law so much with Warhammer Fantasy lore and literature, and I think that he is so important to Warhammer Fantasy lore and literature that if like Larian Studios ever made a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay game, which would be like the dream, right? That would be the dream. Would be if they did with Baldur's Gate 3, if instead of doing Baldur's Gate 3, they did like The Enemy Within, or they did some kind of Warhammer Fantasy roleplay game. I would want Andy Law to be their Warhammer Fantasy lore consultant. Like, if I had to pick one person in the entirety of the world who I would say, this is the person that's going to tell you everything you need to know and who you will go to with all your questions, it would be Andy. That's how much I like put faith in his wisdom. Get that project to Alcat? Oh yeah, whoever you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Larian. I'm just saying, that style of game, it should be Andy Law. Why are they called a demon prince instead of a demon king? Probably because they're serving a god. So like they don't want, like they're not the top dog. They're, you know, they're the little dog. Grombrindal versus Grimgor, flip a coin. Who would we reasonably be able to beat at the end of that game, though? Are we going to be able to beat a single vampire? Well, it depends on who your players are. I mean, humans can beat vampires. It happens. I mean, the vast majority of vampires have been killed by humans. Do Manon and Mathlan argue over who owns the sea? That's a really good question. You should ask Andy Law that. I would say they do, but it is a very complex question. Sorry, it's a very complex answer. If they could do a 40k RPG of fantasy... Oh, by the way, are y'all excited for Rogue Trader? Listen, I don't even like 40k. I'm fucking hyped for Rogue Trader. I think I've played in 2 of their betas, and like, holy fuck, I'm excited for that game. That game is going to be awesome. Very, very much looking forward to it. Like, because my worry is that it was like, oh, you have to be an Imperium guy, right? Like, you have to have humans, and you only get humans, and maybe some Space Marines and Sisters of Battle, and like, no, you could go full fucking heresy if you want, and it's hilarious. Like, there are so many psychers you can get on your thing. Is there something outside Dreadfleet where Stromfels plays a role? If you're looking for like lore stuff, there's an audio drama, Gotrek and Felix. What's it called? It's like Gotrek and Felix and the Storm King or something like that. But it's about Gotrek and Felix dealing with a cult of Stromfels. And it's like a really big story. That's really fun. Stromfels also plays... Yeah, Solostra Deerfawn is quite literally like a high priestess of Stromfels. So like, if you pay really close attention to her Warhammer 2 lore, like if you go play Warhammer 2 and you play the Vortex campaign with Solostra Deerfawn, or the Vampire Coast campaign with Solostra Deerfawn, and you really pay attention to everything that's happening, like all the little lore tidbits you're getting and what she says, she is a big Stromfels character. Where does Luther Harkin fit on the power scale of Warhammer Fantasy? He's definitely in the upper tiers. The Grand Admiral, the Pirate King, yeah, he's a pretty big deal. What retcon / lore expansions will they do in the old world? A lot. A lot. I can't really even answer that question for you yet because I just don't have enough information yet. How did I like the Yuan Bo short story? I fucking loved it. I creamed. A cake with my favorite frosting to eat it because I wanted to celebrate how excited I was. Why did they make Caradryan an incarnate? Because the End Times is fucking dumb. Moving on. Do I think there will be an AOS for Warhammer 3? What? What do you mean an AOS for Warhammer 3? Does Hellebron hate Morathi? Yes. Yes. Hellebron hates Morathi. It's a mutual hatred. Why is this Q&A so weird? If you don't like it, get the fuck out. There are Middle Eastern orcs in Middle Earth. Neat. Was Archaon ever as powerful as an incarnate? Archaon was stronger than the incarnates. Like, individually, none of the incarnates could beat him. They had to work... Only Sigmar was able to beat him. But that was after Grimgor kind of fucked him up a little bit. But no, he whooped the shit out of each of the Carnates in a one-on-one fight. A Total War... Oh, will there be a Total War AOS? Yeah, I think so, but probably not for like a decade. Because they have to finish Warhammer Fantasy, which is probably going to be another like 5 years. And then they're going to do Warhammer... They're going to do Warhammer... Total War Warhammer 40,000, which that's going to take forever. And then they're going to do Total War Age of Sigmar. If Creative Assembly still exists at that point. And the world hasn't blown up because of climate change or whatever the fuck's going on. Pretty sure 95% of people who've met Morathi hate her guts. Or they're too busy wanting to be in her guts. Hey! I'm sorry. I thought Ungrim versus Archaon was close. No. It was not. Is the Empire Q&A still a thing? Yes. Though I would like to get a lot of Andy Law's input on it because there's a lot of questions that are asked that he knows very, very, very detailed answers to. So I would like his help with it. How big is a Black Ark? It is literally a giant fortress city. It's an entire city. Like, it could easily hold tens of thousands of elves. Perhaps a weird question, but what Druchii characters have slept with Morathi? I do not have enough time or energy to answer that question. A lot. She's very... Elves are extremely casual about sex. And Morathi was the head of a pleasure cult. So, there you go. What are Tomb King cities look like? For example, do the normal skeletons... So Tomb King cities are... depends on the city, but if you were able to walk into one undisturbed, many of the skeletons would be performing the same roles they performed in life. Because the way they were preserved into death, or into undeath and resurrected, they don't really have sentience anymore. They basically just have enough faculty to perform the roles that they performed in life. So they would just be endlessly performing their tasks as if they were alive, but almost like in a mechanical sense. Which legendary lords have slept with Morathi? That depends on which version of the lore you decide to go with. Like we talked about in the Malekith deep dive, which was a 3-hour live stream that if you haven't, you should really go check it out. We did it last Sunday. It was super duper awesome. It's up on the YouTube channel. Please go check it out. Leave a comment, hit the like button, please, 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 please. But in the older lore, and debatably still canon, Morathi slept with Malekith a number of times. As far as characters that are still around, the legendary lords, she actually probably hasn't slept with that many of the Dark Elf legendary lords. She never did the deed with Helebron. She never did the deed with... She might have done it with Ricard. I don't think so, but she might have. She's never done it with Malice, to my knowledge. Alithanar did not sleep with her. Alithanar danced with her. A very intimate dance, apparently, but supposedly he did not sleep with her. I think the story actually would have been better if he had slept with her, and it would have made more sense. So in my headcanon, I would say Alithanar has slept with Morathi. But... eh. What notable deeds is Rakarth known for? Being an absolute bastard. I mean, he's the ultimate breaker of beasts. He has broken every single type of creature that's ever been brought into Karankar. Though I really wish... I hate his lore, having him from Karankar. It's so stupid. He should be from Klar Karant. I don't understand why he's from Karankar. He should be from the Beast City. It's so weird. And it might just be because his lore is old and they stopped writing him, so like they never got to update him. But the fact that he's from the slave city and not the city of beasts, beastmasters, is dumb. But yeah, like he can literally break anything. Is it true that there are living humans in Numis? It depends on which version of the lore you're going with. In the more modern interpretations of the lore, the Tomb Kings became much more anti-living people, and became much less comfortable with the idea of having living people around. So I would say no, but it would be perfectly valid to think that the answer to that is yes. There are some older lore tidbits that there were humans that lived at least around the city of Numis. I don't think they were allowed in the city, but I do believe they lived around it. Whether or not you consider that to still be true is up to you. Tsarina Katerin ever face her lover Yuri? Presumably, from a lore standpoint, Tsarina Katerin and Prince Yuri, after he becomes the Demon Prince, would have absolutely fought each other. I think it would have led to Yuri's defeat, but yes, I think they would have fought. Do High Elves defect to High Elves and vice versa? Very, 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 very rarely. But it is absolutely possible. How's Sadie? She's doing okay. She's been having kind of some weird issues where, like, when she eats, sometimes she throws up pretty quickly afterwards, and I'm not sure why. So I need to get her into the vet. Like, sometimes she eats and she's totally fine, and life is great. And another time she eats and she throws up. I don't know what's going on. So I'm working on changing her food to a different dry food, see if maybe that fixes it. But she hasn't thrown up today, so that's good. The big thing is I suspect that my family may have been giving her too many treats on the side. And she may have been overeating because she was eating treats and then coming upstairs to eat her dinner and breakfast, which would make her throw up. So I have told my family they're not allowed to give her treats anymore, at least for like the next week or so. And we're going to see how that does. She's definitely not eating too fast. I can tell you that. Like, she has one of those bowls that looks like a maze to make her slow down so she doesn't eat too fast. And she doesn't really eat that fast anyway. She used to eat very fast, but now she's pretty chill about it. What do I think of the new Wildercrop hunters for cities of Sigmar and their dogs? I like them a lot. I really, really like the new city units. I wish there was a little more variance among the dogs, but I think they look really cool. They're awesome. Yeah, she has a maze bowl. Yeah. Wasn't there Dark Elves and High Elves hanging out in the same city in the end times? Yes, but that was specifically end time shenanigans. Which is, like, that's a separate conversation. And that was because, like, Ulthuan ceased to exist. As did Nagaroth. Like, they literally didn't have any choice. Did the Tomb Kings and High Elves team up one time to fight a giant demon invasion? Yes. The High Elves assisted Citra the Imperishable, I believe, in fighting a demonic legion. And Citra begrudgingly accepted their help, and then after it was over, he told them to get the fuck out. Anarian versus Gotrek Garrison. Anarian would fucking body Gotrek. That wouldn't even be a fight. I love Gotrek, but there's no fucking way he could defeat Anarian. It would have to be, like, the only way Gotrek could fight Anarian is if he had both axes of Grimnir and he was also, like, he would have to have both axes of Grimnir riding on the throne of power created by Grugni, and he would need to be, like, blessed with sacred runic power by Valea. Like, he would need the power of his pantheon behind him. Gotrek versus Aberash? Aberash would win, though Gotrek would give him a good fight. How did Anarian change when he became the Phoenix King? If you want to know a lot about Anarian, me and Andy Law did a whole live stream dedicated to Malekith, but we, like, the first 30 minutes, we talked almost exclusively about Anarian and Marathi. Go check that out. We get really in depth about it. What about Grombrindal versus Anarian? It'd be closer, but I still think Anarian would be too much. Grombrindal would need more. Like, he has the artifacts of the other ancestor gods, but he would need, like, their direct power. Not just their artifacts. Is there anyone that could beat Abarash one-on-one? Anarian could. Archaon could. A competent enough wielder of Galmaraz could. So, like, Sigmar at his height. Nagash could. Malekith probably could. Who's Abarash? Abarash is the father of the Blood Dragon bloodline. There's a actually significant number of people that could beat Abarash one-on-one if they're allowed to use magic. If it's like purely a martial battle, it's a much smaller list. But like if you're allowed to use magic, there's actually a reasonable amount of people that could beat him because magic is really fucking strong. Is Grombrindal an ancestor god? That's a debate. I believe he is an ancestor god, but you could argue that he is not. I believe he is the ancestor god of vengeance, but you could completely validly argue that he is not. Anarian versus Orion? Anarian would win. Orion is merely one god. Anarian wields the power of two. Does Abarash still, for lack of a better term, care for Neferata? I mean, he still loves her, but he got over it. Like, there's a notable part in his story where he gets over his obsession with Neferata, and he never falls back on that. Once he decides that he is over her, he's over her, and he literally shows it. He signifies it by stabbing her through the chest with a spear. Like, he impales her with a lance through her heart. It doesn't kill her, but it binds her in place. Anarian versus full power Nagash. Now that would be a fight. That would be a hell of a fight. I don't know. I honestly don't know. The Dragon Emperor versus Mazdamundi also would be a fucking hell of a fight. I don't know. I don't know. Did Vlad ever care for Neferata? Yeah, Vlad was in love with Neferata for a long time. Like, their marriage was a little bit more on the political side than the true love side, but Vlad did care for Neferata for quite some time. I think he eventually came to the realization that Neferata did not... I don't think they saw eye to eye. And I think the fact that Neferata was passed over for Vashiness caused her to resent him very, very heavily. And she ended up resenting him, and I think that caused their marriage to fall apart. Pepsi versus Coke? Coke. And if you answer Pepsi, you need to go to a hospital because there's something wrong with you. Like, I think like a single Pepsi on a rare occasion could be like, oh, that's kind of a nice taste, but like, God, it is so disgusting on a regular basis. Thoric Ironbrow versus Astrogoth? That's anybody's game. Dr. Pepper reigns supreme. Dr. Pepper is pretty hype. It is pretty fucking hype. Neferata and Warhammer is that person you date before you find your one true love. Don't tell her that. She'll fucking rip your guts out. Pepsi is better in a can. Coke is better from a fountain with ice. Agree to disagree. Have I ever tried salt licorice? No. Why would I ever want to eat licorice? Ugh. Oh, that actually reminds me of a funny story. So the first time I have had the privilege to go to Creative Assembly HQ a number of times, which has always been a bunch of fun. And I get to like help out with little things, and you know, I've been there for a bunch of Everchosens and stuff before COVID happened, and you know, life was great. But anyway, the very first time I ever went to Creative Assembly, right? When I was there, I had made some friends and stuff that worked there, and the guy that was, I'm not gonna say his name, but the employee who was in charge of dealing with me, who was in charge of making sure that everything I needed was taken care of, and that, like, if I needed anything, whatever. I took too much money my first time, because that happens a lot when you travel somewhere for the first time, is you take like a shit ton of money and then you end up not needing it, especially if you're not traveling, right? Like, I went there, I stayed in Horsham for a little bit, and then I went home. I wasn't traveling. I was just going there and dealing stuff, and then went home after half a week or whatever. And so my handler, the guy that was in charge of taking care of me, I had a whole bunch of pounds left at the end, and I was like, hey, I promised, like, my friends and family that I would, like, bring back some souvenirs and stuff, but I can't go anywhere, right? Because, like, my schedule is very tight. So I was like, can I just give you all of my leftover money, and will you buy a bunch of just stuff and send it to me in the States? So, like, can you, like, buy a bunch of candy, maybe buy some, like, cool souvenirs, and send that to me over in Texas? And he was like, yeah, sure. So, so I get home. A few weeks later, a giant package arrives where he spent all the money getting a bunch of stuff and all that jazz. So in this box, there was a bird statue, which actually was super fucking cool because it was a robin. And my mother's name is Robin, and my mother, my parents are very big into gardening, and they love anything they can put in the garden, right? So it was this little, like, metallic robin statue. My mother loved that, which was great. 10 out of 10. Great job. But everything else in there was candy. And we're all so excited. We're like, ooh, British candy. Like, ooh, maybe some European candy. We're all so excited. It was just licorice. He was like, oh, I got you, like, an assortment of treats that, like, British people like. It was so much fucking licorice. And it was awful. It was the most disgusting. It was 50 British pounds of just garbage. Just the most disgusting candy I have ever had in my entire life. We had to throw it all out. Like, I offered it to my friends. I took it to work. I took it to the college I was attending, and I was like, anybody want British candy? And everyone would be like, oh, British candy. And then they'd pick it up and look at it, and they go, oh, fuck, is this all licorice? It's like, yeah. And they're all like, ugh, get that away from me. Awful. Threw it all in the trash. It was like, there was a couple of good things in there, but the vast majority was just awful. British food, not even once. Just, oh my god. My favorite food, my favorite food that I get when I go to Britain is food from other countries. Oh man. I love visiting. It's great. I've been there many times. It's always a lot of fun. But sweet lord. I will say, the next time I visited, I was very, very sure to request chocolate specifically and no licorice. And when I went up to Scotland, and I went on vacation. Like, I spent 2 weeks in Scotland. I only was there for like 1 or 2 days for Chaos Rising, and then the rest of the time I just wandered. And I went to the Isle of Skye. And I don't remember the name of it, but the Isle of Skye had this awesome little, like, candy shop. But there was this lady there who made all of her own candy. So she sold like sea salt, candies, soap. Like, she did a lot of handmade stuff and chocolate and stuff. It was amazing. It was amazing. I bought so much fucking shit from that shop, and I was like, haha, yes. And it was so good. It was so good. Oh, dude, I love Scotland. No offense, England, but Scotland was like fucking incredible. I did have fun in England. I went to What's the name of the English or British city that's like near the border with Scotland? It's a really big city, and like a lot of the Roman walls are like still visible, like Hadrian's Wall, I think. Maybe it might not be Hadrian's Wall, but like there's a bunch of like Roman architecture still visible, and it's like kind of it's a big party city. There's a big river running through it. It's on the east side. Newcastle, yeah, Newcastle. I think it was Newcastle. I met James there. James from CA. You know, y'all remember James before he left CA? Dog of War James. James that always got in trouble for saying shit he wasn't supposed to say. I met him there and we got lunch. We got dinner and he showed me around the city. That city was fucking awesome. It was a party town. Like, it was just non-stop partying. Oh, sorry, Dogbert. That's what y'all... Dogbert. Y'all knew him as Dogbert. Dogbert CA. He lives there now. So, I hung out with him when I was there. And it was super fucking fun. I had so much fun. That city was crazy. Granted, it was right after... it was kind of right after COVID ended. So like a lot of the restrictions have been lifted. So like everyone was just like going nuts. And Newcastle was bumping. Like it was just, it did not matter what time of day it was. It was like full of people partying. But I also went to Leeds, where I hung out with Grace, who also used to work at CA. And that was a lot of fun. Leeds was fun. Like it definitely felt like a city that was growing very, very fast. Yeah, Edinburgh, my one regret on my Scotland trip was I did not spend more time in Edinburgh. I regret that so much. Like, because I didn't spend any time until the end of my trip. I spent the last 2 days in Edinburgh, and I had so much fucking fun. Like, I had an absolute blast and was loving it. And I was like, fuck, I should have spent a lot of time here. Because I spent most of my trip in Inverness. And then I also spent a fair amount of my trip in Stirling. Which Stirling was awesome, except for the fact that it's a fucking mountain. So everything is like this. So no matter where you're walking, it's like you're on a goddamn... you're like on a, whatever, I forget what that, you're like on a goddamn treadmill that's been angled at 45 degrees. The entire goddamn city is just like, fuck you and your legs. But very, very fun city. Beautiful, beautiful city. Stirling was like, oh my god, it was so pretty. In Inverness, I had a hotel on the riverside, and that was beautiful. And went to the Isle of Skye for a little while. Isle of Skye was like out of a fucking movie. But yeah, next time I go, I don't know when that's going to be. But if the next time I go back to Scotland, which I will go back to Scotland. But the next time I'm going to go back, I might just stay in Inverness almost the entire time. Because that's where Andy Law lives. So I can hang out with Andy and his, all of his family and buds. Because I would love to see them. So I could go there and just hang out with them a whole bunch. I should have come to Wales. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know where Wales is. I don't know if Wales is like part of one of the big islands or if it's like one of the little islands that's kind of around it. I have no fucking idea where Wales is. Do I know which companion I'm going to take in BG3? Nope. I'll figure it out as I go. It's on the left. That is not helpful. It's the little bump on the left. Like, it's attached. It's connected. Okay, so it's on the coast. Okay. Yeah, England's all right. Like, England's it's pretty okay. I've had some okay times in England. I had a fucking blast in Scotland. Have a good one, Hugh. Thanks for coming by. I'm almost done streaming anyway. Ireland? Never been to Ireland. I would love to go to Ireland. I have many, 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 many Irish friends and descendants of Irish friends, which is weird. but it just is. Do I know anything about Portugal? I know where it is. Other than that, no. If I had to live with one of the neutral faction legendary lords, greenskins and ogres included, who would I live with? Assuming they like had to tolerate me or preferably like me, honestly, I'd probably hang out with Gorfang Rotgut. Or Greasus. I'd either hang out with Greasus Goldtooth or Gorfang Rotgut. Unless I was invincible. If I was invincible, I'd go hang out with Golgtag Maneater, because I get to explore the world. Any Kadai gods the Druki worship, not including Mathlan? Well, Mathlan's not a Kadai god. He's a Sithari. He's an underworld god. Technically. I mean, the Dark Elves often acknowledge the Kadai or will worship them when they are relevant. But no, the Druki are pretty heavily almost like pure Kadai. Is the underlying theme of Warhammer Fantasy is a doomed world? Is it also the same with Age of Sigmar? No. Age of Sigmar is explicitly a world of hope. Age of Sigmar is a world where the Chaos Gods very realistically can be killed. Am I watching the Hollow debuts tonight? No. So it's not I would not even ever think about calling it a secret. I really love VTubers. I fucking love VTubers. I think they're hilarious and awesome. However, I'm very like I prefer like very specific ones. I tend to like, and I'm friends with them. So like Grimmy VTs, who's streaming right now and is actually who I'm about to go watch. She's my favorite. Like I don't really watch any of the YouTube ones. I don't watch any. I do not watch any VTubers on YouTube. I only watch VTubers on Twitch. One day I will become a VTuber on Twitch, but that's expensive and I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. I keep like, the thing that I think keeps always holding me back is I need to find someone that can draw me like character concept art, and I don't know who to go for that. And like, it's one of those things I don't want to advertise that I'm looking for on Twitter, because if you ever go like, hey, I need an artist for X, you get like a billion fucking messages from people who, I do not mean to be asshole about this, but like they're just terrible. Like it's just awful stuff. Like it doesn't even look like they're drawing anything. They're literally just like slapping assets together. And it's like, I don't want to fucking, I don't want to see any of this shit. So like I have to find somebody I like, and I haven't really found anyone whose style really grabs at me. AI art, eh. I'd rather pay a human being to do a good job because I can be very specific about what I want. Anywho, that Helltaker Loremaster of Sotek fan art. I totally forgot about that. I completely forgot. That is, I will say, that's probably the one thing I wish I knew how to do. I wish there were more artists in my community. Like, I know artists are drawn to artists communities. Like, generally people who can draw attract artists, or VTubers. VTubers attract artists. I would kill to have more artists in the community. Like, god damn. I love fan art so much, but the Warhammer community does not have very many artists. If you want to know anything about Portugal history, just ask, because I know a lot. You're Portuguese. Neat. Awesome. Very cool. I can't, unless I can't imagine that's going to come up anytime soon, but I will do my best to keep that in mind. Convince CA to release custom art of your Total War character? Yeah, no, they're not going to pay an artist to do something that I could pay an artist to do. They'll just tell me to do it. They already put me in the game. They're not going to, they're not going to do more for me. They've already done enough. Thoughts on giving Legendary Lord Magic users spell intensity to showcase how powerful they are? That could be fun, Luring Lion. That could be really fun. That would be kind of like that'd be a really cool use for, you know what that'd be cool for? Would be like the Loremaster trait. I would love if the Loremaster skill on the characters that have it increased spell intensity. That'd be actually really hot. I like that idea. That's a really good idea. I'm surprised no one has done that yet. All right, my dudes. Well, it seems like things are kind of slowing down. It's getting a little later in the day. So I think, unless anyone's got like a really pressing question, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Is there any lore reason why certain races can only use certain lores? Yes. It usually has to do with how that race interacts with the winds of magic. So the way that race acts, the way they are emotionally and physically, where they live, how they live, causes them to have an innate relationship. This would be a really good question for tomorrow's stream with Andy Law, by the way. So Kurin, you should either drop that in the Ideas for Sotek Discord channel or show up to the stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. CST, 4 p.m. BST on here or Twitch and ask that question to me and Andy, because that's a great question. But yes, depending on how certain people live their lives, like what they're doing, where they live, how they live, certain winds will be drawn to them, and they'll have a natural affinity for those winds of magic. How will greenskins affect the economy in Canada? Well, it can't get any worse than it's already getting everywhere, right? Maybe they'll like wah and destroy a bunch of stuff and kill all the rich people, so the housing market will be more affordable. So I say bring on the greenskins. What time is the stream tomorrow? 10 a.m. CST, 4 p.m. BST. Help you? No. What class will I play first in BG3? Find out on Thursday, but I'm going to play Paladin Dragonborn, I think, on my first playthrough. Who would win, Grom the Paunch versus a stomach cramp? Grom would actually win, because that's literally how Grom became Grom, is he ate a regenerating piece of troll flesh that gave him the worst stomach ache on the face of the earth, because it was literally trying to explode out of his stomach. And his digestion won. And now he has troll-like regeneration, so, you know, he conquered the stomach ache. Is there any official lore for End, Koresh, or Fishman? Very, very little amounts, but yes, but very, very little. Where is Yuan Bo going to be on the map? I don't know. I don't work at CA. Why don't more Order factions have animal-like creatures? A lot of them do. Like, oh, you mean like animal monsters? I mean, the Cult of Ulrich has what are known as Children of Ulrich, which are kind of like werewolves. But they're very rare. There's not like units of them. It's a very, very rare bloodline thing. Who's the big red angry dude? Your mom. What units would you guess for Cathay that we still don't know? I don't know, because I don't know enough about like Chinese mythological creatures. So unfortunately, I'm not very well geared to answer that. Is there a Child of Ulrich career in Wolfrip? Kind of. You could make it work. If I would use the, there is a Ulrican career in, oh God, I don't remember what book it's in. I think it's in one of the Archives of the Empire books. Or no, it's in the Middenheim book. In the Middenheim book, there's like a Wolfkin career, something like that. And, using some finagling, you could pretty easily adjust it to do a Child of Ulrich. You could absolutely do a Child of Ulrich. Why don't greenskins regenerate? Because most things don't regenerate. Regeneration is a very, very, very rare ability / talent / trait. Oh, you said on Kislev's new units. Oh, wait, no, that was somebody else. For Kislev, I am really, really hoping for spirits. Give me a Frost Fiend. Oh, I love a Frost Fiend. Frost Fiends are like giant ice bat monsters. Those would be super cool. And give me like spirits of the forest. Like, I want really creepy shit. And then maybe like a unit of Ungals. So like Ungol fighters or Ungol skirmishers or scouts or whatever. Yeah, and Drika would be pretty neat. Am I putting up a Cathay lore video tonight? I already did. Already did. A few hours ago. How much did the High Elves know about Cathay and the Dragon Kids? Presumably a lot. Like, the High Elves have ambassadors in Cathay. Especially along the... they have ambassadors in some of the port cities, and they also presumably will have ambassadors in Shenyang. Why does Kislev not use any other winds of magic? Because their magic comes from the earth itself, or comes from the land of Kislev itself, and the thing that lurks within it, which is a discussion for another time. And by that, I mean, go to my YouTube channel or go to your search bar and type in Loremaster of Sotek Ancient Widow and watch that video, and all your questions will be answered. How would I feel for Kaldor Drago as a legendary hero for Order Faction / Easter egg? I will shoot you. Kaldor Drago and Kabanda can go die in a pit together. That's where they belong. Is there going to be a Lustria session of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? Yes. However, the Lustria campaign is currently on hiatus because I haven't, like, expressed this because it's not really anybody's business. But, like, I pay for those sessions. They're not free. Like, I pay the GM because he puts a lot of work into it. And he's a GM for hire. Which is great. That's fine. However, due to various circumstances, like Sadie has had a lot of vet bills this month and just life, I am not in a place where I can feel comfortable financially continuing that. So the Lustria campaign is on hiatus for probably like the next month. Has Tehinoan ever played Blood Bowl? In my heart, yes. Is the Great Widow a god or demigod? That's the question, isn't it? Maybe she's neither. What's the biggest mortal to exist in Warhammer Fantasy? What do you mean by mortal? What is the topic of tomorrow? It literally says on the live stream. it's in the title. It's magic. We're discussing magic. Yeah, I'd say a Sky Titan would be a fair answer. Either a Sky Titan or Kraken Rock the Black, or Kalgalanos the Black, or oh fuck, what is that other dragon's name? There's Ancalagon, and then I don't remember the other one. There's another one that's really big. Gelt X Zhao Ming. Go talk to Camilla. I'm sure she can help you out with that. Did I know Portugal is one of the countries who left the biggest legacy in the world? Neat. When do we get a boa constrictor in Warhammer 3? Koresh. Alright, anyway, I'm gonna go. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had a really good time. I will see you all, hopefully, here in a number of hours. 10 a.m. CST, 4 p.m. BST, for discussion on the winds of magic with Andy Law. So, please take care of yourselves. Have a lovely day. I do want to thank you all very, very much for all the generosity. Thank you for all the super chats and the new members. Really, really appreciate it. Every single dollar helps more than you can possibly know. Really, truly, it does. It helps a lot. So, thank you very much for the support. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.